night is the Rangers Journal night.
Welcome everyone to the Rangers Journal. We normally kick our news show off at 12 o'clock, but we delayed it this week for a very special reason. We don't have the breaking news at this exact minute, everyone, but if you just bear with us a few minutes, we will have, I think. Cammy, I'll introduce you first of all, mate. How are you?
I'm good. There's so much going on. It's good. I've not been on for a while, so I'm just looking forward to chewing the fat with you guys and see what comes.
Well, what possibly could we talk about? Billy, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, yeah. I'm glad I spent like 5 or 6 hours doing a deep dive into the 13 youth team players we got, because I think that'll fill the hour.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, mate. We might come to rely on that at some point. And Bob, mate, welcome this week. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Billy. Hopefully we have some good news coming very shortly. So yeah, looking forward to hopefully discussing that and obviously touching on anything else Rangers related that's happened over the last week or so.
Cammy, I'll come back to you. We're trying to be coy because we have it on good authority that very shortly there will be an official announcement regarding the ownership of the club. Let's just talk about the previous owners of the past 10 years briefly then. I don't want to give them kind of scorecards, but, you know, they obviously took us away from the Mike Ashley era and moved us into, you know, we got to 55. It took a few seasons to get that way. But how do you feel the legacy of the owners of the last 10 years is going to be, and, you know, going down in history for the Rangers fans?
It's a hard one, I think, in time. I always think straight after something changes in time, I think history will be reasonably kind to them for what was achieved, I would say, between 2015 and 2021. I think the wheels pretty much came off after the title winning season for me. And I think the last 4 years has been one poor decision after another on and off the park. So grateful for what they gave, but I think it's the right time for fresh energy, fresh ideas. So I'm not really sure how I would score them, to be honest with you, but gratefully appreciate for what they done, and they put a lot of time and a lot of money into keeping us going. But we've just made so many bad decisions, bad appointments, and that ultimately falls on the people on the board and the chairman and that sort of situation. So time for a change and time to move forward.
Billy, as well, do you agree with Cammy there that, you know, the wheels kind of came off after 55? Instead of doubling down with their investment, they tried to, I guess, save and go on with and to be fair, we got to the Europa League final that year, so it wasn't maybe the worst decision, but they didn't back Gerrard, and Gerrard eventually leaves, and it leaves us in this position now. We've had a little bit of a managerial merry-go-round ourselves.
Yeah, I think what Cammy says is right. It's very difficult to score this because you can almost divide it into two eras. There is the era where they save us from the Spurs and Ashley and the like, and you just can't overestimate how important that was, because, you know, a club in Ashley's clutches or in the clutches of the people who had control at that point, who knows where that could have taken us? I mean, who knows how far back we'd be by now? I doubt we'd have won 55, and I doubt we'd have got to a Europa League final. So you just can't overstate what a phenomenal job they did, with the support of the fans, with fan mobilisation, with, you know, they couldn't have done it without us, and it's a story that really needs to be told, I think, in more detail at some point. The hinge point, and it's kind of like, you know, in history you have like these points where things could pivot one way or another, and 55 for me is kind of the reason why we're in the sort of the rut we're in now, because really Celtic reacted and Celtic spent, and they brought in Postecoglou, but really as a minimum we should have won 56. You know, we were set fair, we had a better squad, we had momentum, we had all the advantages of cohesion and like the smoothly running machine that actually Celtic benefit from. And unfortunately, some of it's understandable. I think a lot of the board were enthralled to Gerrard, especially given that he's Steven Gerrard and he's delivered 55. Also, like we were heading into the Champions League, and Steven Gerrard wants to keep the original squad and wants to add to it. We front-loaded investment to basically land 55 in many ways compared to what we might have spent otherwise. So I think we ended up in a situation where we needed some grown-ups in the room. We needed people to go, look, Stephen, if you want more players in, we're going to need to sell one or two assets, because what we ended up with was a squad that sort of went a bit stale, players that decreased in value, and it's all very well saying we did get to Europa League final and we were so unlucky, but that sort of was papering over the cracks. Like Gio was a wee bit of a genius in Europe, some of the tweaks, but he also benefited from a squad that Gerrard had battle hardened in Europe, and you had players who were like good enough to actually take on those tactical tweaks. So I think the Europa League final, that may be papered over the cracks. I do think that the reason we're here today is because at the point at which we should have been a bit grown up, selling assets, bringing in money, freshening up the squads, stopping it from going stale, because a lot of those players were brought in and told that 55 was it. And we got 55. So what do you expect some player from England who's come up here and been told that this is the mountain, when he's climbed the mountain, what do you expect the next season? I don't think we freshened it up. I think a lot of mistakes were made in the afterglow of 55. So it's very difficult. I do really hold that as the point at which the board lost control of the situation, and yet they're the ones that got us to that situation. So I don't know. Like Cammy says, I don't know like how you score it. 3.5 fishes, 2 bicycles. Like it's like there's like shiny things to wave, and then there was decline. So but we'll always be grateful for the first half and for the success he delivered.
Bob, if this rumoured takeover didn't go ahead, how long do you feel this board could actually carry on doing the way they've been performing? How long do you think the fans would put up with it?
I don't think for long, Billy. I think just based on recent years, the fact that we've really not seen, and again the things that they've given us over the last 4 or 5 years and probably beyond that, in terms of keep referring back to the player trading model, which has just never really been kicked into gear. Just kind of touching on what Billy said there, I think when we got to 55, it was a case of let's kind of sit back and bask in our own glory. Even when Gerrard was saying, as we've all touched on in many pods, let's fix the roof while the sun's shining and not when it starts to rain. And I think, again, the benefit of having Gio come in after Gerrard, having, again, just touching on what Billy said, the fitness of the squad there and being able to tweak that to perform well in European games to get to another European final. Obviously, then come the following season, we had the unfortunate Champions League campaign, although it was obviously our first in over 10, 13, 14 years, which again maybe scarred some of the squad as well, just thinking that we've been so good domestically over the last kind of year to 18 months. Did that have an effect on them moving forward, especially given at that point Celtic had come in, had won kind of a trophy or two over the last year or so, and then they really built up some momentum, whereas we declined, as we've all said. So yeah, I mean, this current board, again, thank them for taking us away, in 2015. But yeah, I think fresh investment, fresh ideas, a fresh outlook is thoroughly required moving forward at this moment in time. Just because if it continued on the same track, I think that the fans would start to seriously lose trust and confidence in the board, which we don't want. We've had that before and it got ugly, and we certainly don't want to go back to those days.
Ryan, mate, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Not bad. Glad to get this over the line at last, eh?
What's that you're talking about, mate?
Yeah. The reason we're all on here, is it not?
I'm joking. Well, I thought, here to talk about the 13 youth players that were released by the club. No, that's what we were thinking we were going to talk about today. I joke, obviously, mate. We are hopefully just a couple of minutes away from being able to bring an official announcement. And thank you for joining us, mate. Your thoughts on the current board, Ryan? If things had to keep going without this investment that we're expecting, what do you think would have happened in the next couple of years?
I think we would end up just falling further and further behind, being honest. It's pretty obvious that investor fatigue had massively set in. And if it's, if it's maybe not a want of will, the guys are obviously keen to support the club. It's maybe just that their pockets were just not as deep as what they once were. They've just taken it as far as they can. And I think they've got it in a decent enough place where it became a lucrative investment. That's obvious. They probably saved the club from, the Lions, as it was. The guys that were determined to tear the clubs to shreds. They were determined to rip the absolute core out of the club. Even more worse than what it was in 2013. So we're probably got to thank them, shake their hands, and wave them off into the sunset. They've carried the can as long as they possibly can. We've now got to use this as a platform to launch and take us out to the next level.
Cammy, it did seem like the club, as much as we were complaining about things the last couple of years, the club were getting themselves in a position to be taken over. Do you agree with that?
Definitely. I think we've cut a cloth with regard to FFP and that sort of situation. The one thing I do think, season ticket renewals have just been announced at 98%. I think that would have been hit. I think a lot of people have renewed because that's what we do as Rangers fans. But I think if this takeover wasn't likely to happen or it's officially been announced, I think if that wasn't to happen, I think the renewal rates wouldn't have been as high. So as it says there, USA, let's go.
Fair enough. Ross, welcome to the pod, mate. How are you?
Busy pod, lads. Has something just happened by any chance? Oh, and forgive me, I've got something to put on here.
Well, let's.
I feel it's only appropriate
nice one,
for an attire
so I got my
in an event like this. Yeah, I believe the name
guys,
of the game is this.
Well done, mate. Anyway, so I can come back in here. As I said, guys, I'm using my phone as my my camera for this today. So has there anything been breaking there, Cammy?
Rangers Football Club is pleased to announce that a consortium of investors led by Andrew Kavanagh and 49ers Enterprises has purchased a majority stake in the club with approval from the Scottish FA. The consortium will chart a new strategic vision for the club's future, prioritising on-pitch performance and long-term financial sustainability. And there's obviously more information, but that's the tweet that Rangers have just put on there at 1 o'clock. So good to go.
There we go. It's now that it's happened, it's been going on for so long, hasn't it? We've known about this for a couple of months now. It's felt like it's such a slow news, drip feeding things out. We're hearing things here and there, and then this morning I woke up to some messages that this was going to be confirmed today, and here we go. We've got it. Billy, what's your immediate reaction? Are you happy with this?
I've been sort of dreading this in one sense, because I'm kind of like the sort of like the spectre at the feast in this. I am welcoming it, but I think while we have to be optimistic, I think this is a time to be really guarded as well and really pay attention to what's happening, because historically Rangers have, apart from the Spiv era, always been owned by Rangers men or people who had Rangers' best interests at heart. And success was generally measured in terms of trophies, in terms of how we were doing in Europe. And we're going to have to realise that the 49ers group are going to measure success predominantly through how much money they can make out of us. Now, what we all hope is that aligns with the successful Rangers. So the way we see it is like they're going to make money by building up a squad that gets us the league, that gets us access to the Champions League, that gets us the money that's in there. And if that happens, then it's a win-win. Where I think we have to be very guarded is like, if it's not happening, if it's not a win-win, who's losing out in it? So I do, like I say, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have lined up. But there is that concern that, you look at, they're coming into a situation where historically, in recent years, directors have put in soft loans to plug gaps. That's not going to happen now. If they're going to need money, they're going to get it from us. And the revenue streams are typically, like you've got your tickets, your merch, TV, and Europe. And Europe's the big thing because we've been in the second top tier competition in Europe, and we've made like about 20 odd million euros out of it, which is good. But to make more money out of Rangers, you need to get us into the Champions League, really. You can do things like hike the prices of tops and merch and find other revenue streams, but I don't think that in itself is why they've come in. So, I'm excited, but I would say I think it's a time for us not to get lost in the sort of like, the ticker tape and the razzle dazzle of the takeover. I think it's also a time to stay vigilant and make sure that what is happening at the club is aligned to our values, is aligned to what we see Rangers as. And I know there'll be some friction. I'm not expecting it to be, people will not be happy with some of the changes. That happens whenever there's a takeover. That happens whenever there's new ownership. But for me, that there is this, it's an epochal shift from a period where we've been owned by Rangers fans or people who are Rangers minded. We are now in a situation where we're going to be owned by a group who I think want us to be successful, who I think see us as a cheap ticket to get into the Champions League relative to what they'd spend in England. But we also have to be wary because, like, in 2 years' time, if this works out, we're all sitting with 2 titles, we're in the Champions League, and it's great. If it doesn't work out, like to us, to the 49ers, we are an asset. We're an asset as part of a group, and that makes us vulnerable to the vagaries of things out with football. We saw that when Murray International medals. It wasn't like not necessarily Rangers that were the only problem there. It was the winds of change in his business world that really hit things. And the 49ers are going to have similar vulnerabilities, and we're only going to be part of a portfolio. So sorry to be Mr. Misery here. I am excited. I'm really excited to see what they bring, but I think we really need to be watching them like hawks as well, just to see how it aligns with what we see for the club going forward. So I'm sure I'll be seen as Mr. Misery Guts, not for the first time.
Ross, let me come to you because I'm going to get. I want somebody with a hat as well who obviously feels the same excitement that I do today. Sum up how you're feeling now that it's officially announced Rangers takeover complete by the 49ers group and Andrew Kavanagh, I've got to mention.
It's just been such a long time coming. I feel like we've been waiting on this now for years. It's been, as we said, it's an unusual feeling because probably for the first time, like I say, barring the Spiv era, we've not been owned by so-called Rangers men for basically for the length of time we've been a company. So it is a fresh start. Like I say, you do have to take the trepidation with it that these aren't Rangers men, so they're not going to make decisions for Rangers. Are going to make decisions for business. And like I say, we probably need to be, as a support, dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century. But like I say, they're going to run it as a business, so they're going to run it to be successful. If Rangers is successful, Rangers makes money, and that makes them money. So it's hard to argue against that point, but I understand the idea that it's perhaps not going to be all bells and whistles and they're just going to come in and we're going to buy the best players and we're going to be brilliant and that's it. I understand that there's a little bit more to it than just that, but we've deserved a fresh start. We've stagnated for so long and we feel like we've been in a stage where we've been going nowhere, just kind of getting by, kind of almost robbing Peter to pay Paul at times with the finances and stuff like that. So it's exciting. You're allowed to be excited about it. Probably for the first time in a long time, we've got a summer with a complete fresh slate. There's no overhangs of managers, there's no overhangs of boards, anything like that at all. It's a complete and utter fresh start, and I think it's been a long time coming for us. It's really exciting.
Ryan, can I come to you, mate? Because I know you've got a background in finance. How are they going to be able to invest money into the club in the short term?
We're just obviously just putting funds in, just basically putting capital into the account. They'll probably, I'd imagine it will get fired in as directors' loans to start with on that side of things, but they're basically just funding their own business. It's almost like a startup where you put an element of money into it to get it started and it gets used to buy decent stock and the stock gets sold. So I think there was talk of £20 million getting floated about. I don't know if that's come out officially, but we talk a £20 million gas injection get in. That will obviously get bolstered by the 98% of season ticket renewals. There'll be prize money due to come from UEFA in the next few weeks as well from the Europa League run. There's a sellable asset in the squad in Nico Raskin as well. So we could be looking at handing the new manager a right good war chest. Obviously, we've got to be conscious of the FFP rules, but I think we've done quite well in getting obviously the wage bill reduced. And I think doing that last season prepared us for this season, if that makes sense, with the 5-year average. And I think obviously the interview that you did, Billy, that even if we do start to kind of tinker along the lines of bending the rules, that the fines aren't actually that bad. So let's just get in about it. Put a marker down early. Let's go out and get, sign a right good player. Go out and get a good striker in. Get the money in and get investment into the club. So the thing I'm looking forward to be honest with you, is as much as I'm looking forward to success in the park, I'm looking forward to a more professional image coming out of the club. The mistakes and the moans that we've had about the board over the last few years is ridiculous. Things like the off-site hospitality, going to Radisson Red, who's owned by a Celtic fan. The fiasco, which was the Copeland Road and getting moved to Hampden. I'm looking forward to the club being in better hands as such, and actually opening my phone and looking at it and going, that's a great idea, well done, that's a great business move, rather than just putting my head in my hands all the time thinking, what are they doing now, what's going on? And it's just giving bullets in the gun for over the road that they can just laugh at us. So I'm looking forward to the tides turning. I'm looking forward to success.
If I can just point everyone over to our YouTube page, if you aren't watching on there, please go over to YouTube and like and subscribe our channel. We have regular podcasts most days. And Ryan was referring to an interview I did with a finance lawyer 2 weeks ago. So if you look back in our feed, he goes into, Stefan is his name, and he goes into detail how the 49ers consortium would be able to invest money into the club and how they might take risks of even bending financial fair play rules to get money in there and to get us into the Champions League as soon as possible, because that's really where they're looking to make the money. Bob, can I come to you? As I say, you've maybe had a few articles open. Is there anything else coming out? Any other comments on social media? Any other big hits? Saying anything about this?
Yeah, I've got the article up. I think Cammy was going to touch on it as well. They've mentioned about the new leadership group being Mark Tabor, Andrew Clayton, Gene Schnurr will join Andrew Kavanagh as chairman and Parag Marat as vice chairman as new members of the board. Patrick Stewart, Fraser Thornton and John Halstead and George Taylor will remain on the board, whilst Graham Park, Julian Woltart and Alistair Johnston are stepping down from the board with deep thanks from the club for their contributions. So I think that hopefully answers Curry's questions that was in the comments. But yeah, again, just what kind of Ryan and that touched on, looks as if they're going to invest 20 million subject to shareholder approval at a general meeting on the 23rd of June. So they're certainly getting things kicked off. And from the media's point of view and from our visibility point of view, very, very quickly. I'm sure the wheels have been turning in the background on that over the last few weeks and months. So yeah, really looking forward to what's in front of us. Billy, I think, just touched on what Ross, Billy and Cammy have all said. Just fresh start. A summer of discontent has been eradicated in one statement from the club. Again, take on Billy's point out. We've been marked in the past by previous ownership, so we obviously want to make sure that this new team of investors and the consortium themselves maintain the standards and the traditions that we all have come to expect from the clubs. But yeah, on the whole, very excited, and it'll be interesting to see what their focus is. Their main priority, is it going to be investment on the park, off the park? Are they going to try and split that money? I'm sure we'll get the details as and when they come out, but that's certainly something to look forward to moving into the summer.
Cammy, I feel you're maybe more fingers on the pulse when it comes to the boardroom members and stuff. How do you react to the announcement there that who's coming on, who's coming off? I guess we probably don't know a lot about the folk coming on.
Never heard. I need to do a bit of digging with regard to the people that have obviously joined. There's obviously the names that have been out and about over the last few months. Graham Park is obviously that's one that's been a bone of contention for a lot of people. And as I said earlier, to be grateful for what Douglas Park particularly contributed with regard to that. But I think there's a wee bit of continuity. There's 2 or 3 obviously staying on there. George Taylor, certainly one I've met at events in the past, and I think that's important that there's some level of continuity. I think that will be necessary. So we obviously it's all only 1:15, and we've got a lot of detective work. Or there'll be plenty of Celtic fans. I'll be able to tell us over the next few hours about every person that's joined the board. So I'll let them do the donkey work, and I'll just read it from there. But yeah, it's change. It's much needed. I think the stagnation, etc. Fresh investment, fresh ideas, fresh energy. It's just what we as a support need. And I think I totally echo what Ryan said with regard to a professional operation and Rangers going about their business in the way that a modern football club should be. We've been trying to put the wheels in motion with regard to the structure over the last few months. And I think that's what's going to excite me. I've seen a lot of comments about the money. You still have to get the right people employed, and you still have to spend that money well, whether it's 20 million or 200 million. It's important that we just we do things sensibly. It's not a case of throwing cash at it, but I'm looking forward to just hearing fresh ideas, fresh involvement, just people that have came from other areas with different experiences and aren't stale. I think that's the big issue. I think those that had been involved with the club over a number of years had become stale, and I think as a support, we had grown tired of listening to a lot of people, to be honest with you. And I think that this opportunity, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come, and hopefully a more successful Rangers in the season and the years ahead.
Let me just respond to Alexander, because there will be people joining us. Alexander, yes. Let me just put this graphic up. The takeover is complete. The 49ers group and Andrew Kavanagh have completed the takeover of Rangers, or majority shareholders anyway. I've seen your face light up a few times, Ross. I hope you will do maybe kind of digging on social media for us. Give me any update of anything you've seen online.
I was actually just reading on the Rangers website. It was an open letter that was presented to the supporters from Andrew Kavanagh and from Parag Marat. It's quite long, but I'll not go into the whole thing.
No, feel free to read it, mate.
All right, okay, well, I'll read the whole thing then. Please bear with me. It just says, Dear Rangers supporters, we are proud to be entering a new chapter for this extraordinary club. This moment is the result of months of thoughtful discussions with the club leadership and our shared confidence in Rangers' success going forward. To that end, we'd like to tell you a bit about our thinking. Simply put, our goal is to win trophies in Scotland and be able to compete at a high level in Europe, whilst laying the foundations of financial sustainability for the future. As our first step, we are investing fresh capital into Rangers, which will be strategically deployed on and off the pitch. Whilst we recognise the importance of resources, we believe that thoughtful, disciplined investment, guided by a clear strategy, is the path to enduring success. Every decision, whether sporting or business, will be made with the club's long-term success and sustainability in mind. We aim to leverage the full strength of the 49ers enterprise's sporting expertise and operational experience, and are confident in Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell to lead this next phase. Our first priority together is clear: hiring a new men's head coach. That process is already well underway, and we look forward to sharing more updates soon. We will also look to invest in talent for our teams. Moving forward, we are reconstituting the board to bring in a few new voices and skill sets. We owe all a special thanks to the previous board for their service. They stepped up in difficult times for the club when they needed them and laid the foundation for what comes next. Above all, we know that true success comes from understanding and honouring what makes this club special. In our time getting to know Ibrox, Glasgow and you, we felt the pride, history and passion that set Rangers apart. You have made it clear what this club means to you, and we take the responsibility of leading this club seriously. We look forward to seeing you at Ibrox soon. For now, we'll keep working, and we can't wait for what's ahead. That's came from Andrew Kavanagh, the new Rangers chairman, and Parag Marat, the new vice chairman of Rangers Football Club.
Well, let me come to you, Billy, because you've been a little bit of the negative Nancy this afternoon. What's your response to a statement? I guess they couldn't say much different, but what's your response to a statement like that? Does it address any of the fears that you have?
No, I mean, it's like you wouldn't expect it to. I'd be kind of worried if we were sitting pulling that statement apart and there was an awful lot of substance to it. I'd be more worried. It's kind of slick corporate speak. It's what you would expect. It's the kind of professionalism that Cammy was referring to. You know, it makes the right noises. They're doing things in the right order. It's something I referred to in another pod. The fact that Thelwell's in seems like grown-ups doing things the right way. The fact that we haven't got a manager in place makes perfect sense, because you want, once they make the appointment, you kind of want it to be something you like get the credit for. So you kind of want the new owners in, or they want to be in before they actually put someone in place. But we're a bit surprised that it doesn't seem to be as far along as maybe we thought, but maybe that's smoke and mirrors, and on Monday we'll have a new manager. But no, I mean, I sort of start drifting off when statements start talking about leveraging and stuff like that, because, you know, it's like it is corporate sort of non-speak in a lot of ways. It's making the right noises. It's telling us how great we are, and you know, that's fine. This is the kind of professionalism you want. I'm more excited about what comes than that statement. And also, you know, you have to remember when they're putting that statement out, they know that there's more people looking to pull it apart on the other side of the city and in the mainstream media in Scotland. So they have to make it sort of like not, you know, it says what it says and it doesn't really go anywhere beyond that. And, you know, like they'll unveil the manager hopefully maybe in the next week or two. No, I've got no problems with it didn't get my pulse racing. It was putting me to sleep a wee bit, to be honest. But like, you know, that's relative to the adrenaline rush of actually getting the deal over the line today. So no problems with it, with the statement. And yeah, I am. I mean, I know you said a negative Nancy here, but I am excited about lots of aspects of the takeover. You know, the professionalism, the marketing, the ideas they'll bring from American sport. But you know, I think we just need to be, we are the guardians of the club. We are the ones who've been here year in, year out. These guys are new in the door. And okay, you know, if they show they can do a great job, no one will be happier than me. But I think we've got enough experience in the last 20, 30 years of knowing that we can no longer just like, you know, sleepwalk through things and trust that the people upstairs are the ones that are making the right decisions, because sometimes we've seen the problems coming. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with the 49ers group. I'm just saying we need to stay vigilant. That statement did not make me vigilant. It made me a wee bit sleepy.
Cammy, we are maybe a similar age. I never actually asked you what your age is, but I'm used to Rangers announcements being big, like Graham Souness being paraded, Maurice Johnson being paraded, even back to Steven Gerrard coming out with the fans. Is this announcement today, maybe just because we knew it was coming, is it a wee bit underwhelming the way they've done it?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting American dancers in the middle of the park at Ibrox. I mean, I think we'll get that. We'll get that when the new season starts, hopefully. But no, not at all. I think I indicated earlier in our chat that I thought it would just be a statement, and what they've issued is exactly what I would expect to come out. So I'm just pleased that this has been going on since October. It didn't actually come into the public domain, but it shows you takeovers don't just happen over like a week. You know, it's like getting a new manager. It takes time. You have to go through due diligence and all that sort of situation. So, not at all. You know, I mean, I'm not jumping for joy, but I'm very, very excited for what's to come. And the announcement is exactly what I was expecting, Billy, to be honest.
And when it comes to the managerial side, Cammy, did you expect this to be the way the announcement would come, like take over first and then they get the limelight to parade the new manager when they make that decision?
Well, it kind of looks like it. I think Dave King had obviously commented on something a couple of weeks ago when he had said mid-June, and that did make me slightly anxious with regard to getting a new manager in situ for returning pre-season on the 23rd of June. So I thought that although Andrew Kavanagh, Kevin Thelwell, etc., have all been involved in the the recruitment process for the manager, it appeared to me that the manager stroke coach was going to come before the takeover was officially ratified. But I do believe that today, the 30th of May, is the day that the announcement has been made. But Andrew Kavanagh, etc., have been at Ibrox across the last few months. There's been lots of discussions. They've had their finger on the pulse with regard to what's been going on and what is going on with regard to the planning ahead. You know, I don't think the manager coach announcement will happen today. I think they'll allow today to be all about the change in ownership and the excitement of that. But I think over the next 48 to 72 hours, I would expect the next manager of Rangers Football Club to be announced. And I don't think it's about them parading the new manager. I think it's not about a trophy. It's about picking the right person that's going to be the right one, and ensuring that in 18 months' time we're not in the same situation. It's about getting the right appointment, and that's the most important thing for us as Rangers supporters. And the people coming in, it makes their life easier if they get the first appointment right.
Bob, I'm seeing some funny pictures already on Twitter as I'm scrolling in between listening to Cammy there, that the Takeover is complete. That has certainly been a thing that's been at the back of my mind. That, you know, not that it was the whole thing was fake, but what if it did go wrong at the last minute and we were left with the same board as we had? Luckily, it's not went that way. What's your feelings on the length of time? Because Cammy mentioned it's been going on since October time, but what's your feelings on how long the takeover's taken? Were you expecting it to be this long? What was your thoughts on that?
Again, I think it's difficult, Billy. I think, you know, just as what we've kind of all touched on over the last half an hour or so, you know, the fact that it never came into the public domain until probably just over the start of the year, turn of the year, when things really started to ramp up, and obviously the visibility of Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marat, maybe less so, but it's definitely Andrew Kavanagh at the European games. Obviously, he was cornered. I think it was the home tie against Fenerbahce. I think, if I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong, but obviously get cornered by one of the Sky reporters asking why he was at the game, and he said he was obviously over to take in one of the games, which obviously was subtle. Same when they get cornered, taking the tour of Ibrox by Patrick Stewart, and I think that video of the group of the consortium and Patrick Stewart walking around Ibrox in the Copland Road will be doing many rounds today and many chats, so please keep them coming. It's certainly good to see. But yeah, I think trying to take on board what Billy said is that, you know, these things are always going to take time, whether it's in business and football or whatever you're based. They always will take time to get all the documentation lined up, all the ducks in a row, the due diligence, as Cammy's touched on in previous pods as well. We know that, again, as we've all touched on, this was going to be critical. And again, what we were talking about at the start of the pod, Billy, was, you know, if the current board prior to 1 o'clock had stayed in place, you know, we were certainly looking, we were certainly going to have to start looking for some fresh investment from somewhere. If it wasn't this American consortium, it would have to come from somewhere, because the current board had been continuing to plug holes, both in the playing and non-playing side of the club, which just, again, as they've touched on in their statements, is not sustainable. We need sustainability moving forward. Again, just for us as a fan base, that mindset of, as Ryan touched on as well, we now have a professional, or more professional, more professional leadership group coming in, to take over the club and hopefully lead us into a far brighter, far more financially stable future, which again we can all look forward to with some cautious optimism, as I would say. Maybe not as negative as Billy, but I definitely have that cautious optimism of, let's just see how they go. You know, again, we're half an hour after the announcement and we're still, you know, I'm certainly giddy about trying to keep that, in check, especially because we're live. I don't want to be going toe-to-toe whilst we're on camera. But yeah, it's certainly positive, and obviously those that have doubted the proposed takeover are now certainly having to eat some humble pie.
Billy, you've taken a wee bit of beating in some of the comments directed towards you for being negative. Give us, though, your outline over the next year or so. What would you be looking for this board to do to, not alleviate your fears, but if it was good governance, what would you be expecting to see?
Well, I'll start off by saying I in no way consider myself to be negative. I prefer the term balanced because I am excited. I just think recent experience tells us that we have a duty of care to the club as much as the new owners do, and for the first time, really in our history, really, we've got a board who will look at the balance sheet as success. If they can make 50 million quid out of Rangers by not winning anything, or 10 million pounds by winning everything, they're going to choose the 50 million. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just going to, like I say, not being negative. I just think we have to balance the excitement and make sure that we are acting as the custodians of the club, because the 49ers might be here for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, but the fans are the enduring element of the club. In terms of governance, I mean, I do expect them to be pretty good and pretty on it. They're here to make money, and they're here to make money ideally by winning trophies. So I think the fact that Thelwell's in, the fact that they're making the announcement makes me think they're getting closer to the managerial appointment. It's difficult to know if the managerial side of things there's a lot of smoke and mirrors on, because I thought we were close to Gerrard, then it looked like we were close to Ancelotti, then you're hearing about the ex-Ajax manager. So whether that's just them playing the media, which would be nice, or whether we've still got a wee bit of legwork to do, I guess next week we'll reveal. I would like to see them get a grip on quite a few things. I'd like to see them get a grip on the marketing, which I think has been a wee bit slapdash. Wouldn't mind seeing RTV getting a bit of a pimp up, to be honest. What I'd really like, and this is maybe me sort of getting into my own particular sort of dream scenario. Someone talked about this in another podcast about Americans coming in and seeing Rangers as a brand, and that brand is the value that they've invested in. And as such, what they might look to do is absolutely hammer any of the mainstream media or other groups who have tried to tarnish our brand, because like it or not, it has been since the Murray era, where he kind of effectively said, don't pay attention to my business and you can kick the crap out of Rangers fans in the media, and we didn't have someone defending us. This is where I think our values could align, because for us, we don't like that stuff, and for the 49ers, the value of Rangers, a lot of it's going to be in the brand. So what I would like to see in the next year is when you get some of the absolute nonsense that's clearly just made up and lies and not based in no fact about the club, that they clamp it, and that actually that American litigiousness becomes something we can wield, because Celtic have thrown their weight around for years, and one thing that does get my goat is us being nicey or taking the moral high ground and rising above. Well, look what it's got us. You've got referees who are afraid to make decisions. Good grief, what was it last season? 11 penalties and 9 of them given by VAR because the on-field referees just don't want to make the right decision. I'd like us to create an environment where referees are as afraid of Rangers as they are of Celtic, and therefore they just make honest decisions. I would like to see a situation where Keith Jackson cannot just make up a story on any given day because he hasn't got something to fill the pages, because they're worried about getting clamped by the lawyers that the 49ers bring in with them. So I would like to see us become shinier and more corporate. I would like to see some really nice marketing ideas, some nice merchandise ideas. I'd like to see what they do around the fan experience. But I would also I've seen enough boards come in and take the attitude with Celtic and the Scottish football and administration of, can we all not just get along and let's work collusively? They don't want to. The placemen there, the people running Scottish football, do not want to work along with Rangers. So I would like us in legal terms to get the cudgel out and make people afraid to cross us and try and create a level playing field. And if the 49ers really want to get me on board, and I think a lot of fans, I think showing that would be a good way to go about it in the first year.
Let me bring Scotty in. Scotty, you're up at iBooks, I can see. What's it like up there?
It's actually pretty quiet now, Billy, to be honest. There's no very many folk about. Folk are starting to come in their drips and drabs right enough. There's a few cars pulling in. They've just pulled in at the shop. Had a nice backdrop there with the gates behind me, but there was ambulances and stuff coming off, so I've just come up to Copeland front just now. It's all right, as I said, it's hard to kind of get a mood because there's not many folk here just now, but in terms of, I was listening to you guys on the way up in the car, and I think this is a day for celebration. I think this is a day where we need to enjoy this and drink it in, basically, if that makes any sense. I get where Billy's coming from in terms of being guarded and stuff, but maybe we've been stung with takeovers before. He's got every right to feel like that, but in the sense of it is a day for celebration, and we'll dissect all that at a later date, if that makes any sense. You need to wipe the slate clean and see how we go forward for here. It's an exciting day for a football club. It's an exciting day to be a Rangers fan. So just sit back and enjoy it and completely revel in it, because, you know, there's half of Glasgow that's ecstatic today and the other half's a wee bit worried, quite rightly so.
Well, if anybody's kicking around the iBooks area, please go up and speak to Scotty, because we'd like to get some, fan interaction with anybody that's.
I will do. As I says, I've just arrived, so I'm going to go a wee walk and stuff now, mate, and I'll jump back on, okay?
No worries, mate. Catch you soon.
Cheers.
Cammy, if I can come to you, the chat is going to go quickly towards the manager and players now that the takeover's complete. It's just the way we are as a fan base. We've got this thing. What's next? I'm assuming the manager is quite close. They mention it in their statement today, so I don't think they do that if they're not pretty decided on who it's going to be. I'm in the camp of Ancelotti. I don't know if that's just because that's the best of the ones that I've seen, and I know we've done deep dives on the pod. Again, go over to YouTube, like and subscribe us. There's lots of managerial candidate reviews over there on the YouTube page. Cammy, what's your thoughts on the managerial position at the moment, though?
I don't think there's a perfect candidate out there. I think that's, there's going to be pros and cons to anybody that comes in. We're not in a position that we can bring Pep Guardiola or Arne Slot to Rangers, managers that are fully experienced and tick all the boxes. But certainly looks to me as though it's David Ancelotti, it is Russell Martin, and Farioli was mentioned, but the report last night didn't give a great deal of. I wouldn't be surprised if we had the conversation when he obviously left Ajax. He was a manager that we were interested. I think he's probably the most experienced out of those three candidates, to be honest with you. But you just don't know. I think Rangers have done fantastically well here in actually managing to conduct this and keeping everything in-house. Anything that has came relating to David Ancelotti has came from Spain, came from his people, trying to apply a wee bit of pressure over recent days. So I wouldn't say I have a preference, to be perfectly honest with you. I just want somebody that can come in, and I have said this on many pods, I just want somebody that can come in and be flexible and understand what it takes to win in Scottish football. That's I don't want a philosophy manager. We've been there, done that, and we've been scarred by it across recent appointments. This appointment has to be somebody, and that would have been a huge part if I was on those interviewing. What that would have been one of my questions. How do you plan to beat the other 10 teams in the SPFL? Because that is the top priority for me, because I think if we do that, we will be competing to the business end of every season. So that's the $1 million question that the next guy coming in, we will get behind whoever the appointment is, no matter who it is, Russell Martin, David Ancelotti, Farioli. But I just think we want it done now. I'm actually laughing while I'm talking here, Billy, that one day we'll get a podcast where James Tavernier does not get mentioned. You know what I mean? We've just had a takeover by the 49ers group, and still Tav is the topic of conversation. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's for another day. I just think we have to take it. The first part of the process has happened with regard to the takeover being announced today. Manager will follow across the next few days. Training for pre-season training starts on the 23rd of June. Players have already left. Transfer window opens in a couple of weeks' time. So there's a lot to happen across, but I think we're in that building blocks process, and I'm sure there's loads going on behind the scenes that hasn't reached the public domain. But I've just rambled on there, to be honest, Billy. I can't even remember what your question was, to be honest with you.
Well, it was about the manager, but I'll move on to Bob.
Yes, mate. So for me, I think, I think the speculation over the manager's kind of distracted us a wee bit from the upcoming takeover as it was then. Obviously, as of today, we've got the announcement. So I think, and try not to take away, as Scotty said, I think we should enjoy ourselves today, in that we know that we have new ownership, we have new investment coming into the club. We can certainly look forward to, hopefully having a far more level playing field, and as Cammy touched on, ultimately being successful on the park far sooner than probably what any of us imagined prior to the takeover being made public, or the takeover talks being made public. I do think, just touching on what the guys have said, I think the announcement probably looks better coming first rather than having the manager announced. I think that would potentially leave a bad taste in some fans' mouth if the manager isn't successful, or the new guy in charge isn't successful. That he's a remnant of the old board. He's not the guy that the current board, the new investors have chosen, although they may have had an influence. Whereas, again, as the guys have touched on, if the new guy comes in, and me personally, I think it now surely has to be Ancelotti has to come in. I really can't see anyone at this late stage making a dart for the line. But if he is successful next year, I mean, if he comes in and does what Dick Advocat done, and I'm just making that a reference point, I certainly don't want to hold Davide and Ancelotti to that same yardstick at the moment, because again, he's only a young coach. But Dick Advocat come in his first season and won the treble. If he can come in, at least win one or two of the trophies on offer, and make a good fist of it in Europe, as we've done with what we've all agreed is a certainly average team. If he gets the investment on the park and improves his quality wise on the park, then I certainly like to think that we'll be successful domestically over the next 12 to 18 months. But yeah, coming back to your main question, Billy, I do think it has to be Davide Ancelotti at the moment. He's certainly in the driving seat.
Billy, I'll also talk to you about the manager now, if that's okay. The Ajax manager, the ex-Ajax manager, and someone like Russell Martin, to me, is the epiphany of what Cammy was saying. Someone that's wedded to a system rather than being adaptive. We've seen that with Russell Martin when they came up to the Premier League, not changing his style of play. We don't know enough about Ancelotti, I guess, in regards to what he's going to be like that way. But the other two that seem to be mentioned, he's the one of my preference, because he's the only one that definitely doesn't have that kind of philosophy management thing.
Yeah, but what we're working off just now is more a vacuum than anything else, because what you're saying is you don't know he's a philosophy coach. He might be. We don't know if he's a philosophy coach because he's never been the head coach in his own right. Farioli was kind of interesting because I've been listening to a Dutch football correspondent talking about him and talking about how actually was a victim of doing so well this season, because like Ajax were 5th last season, and the fans weren't very optimistic about this season, and then he claws his way into a position where really they did throw. I think it's a historic collapse in like a top European league. And a lot of according to this correspondent, a lot of the fans were quite happy for him to stay because they'd seen the improvement he'd made. The football was not the typical Ajax style. It wasn't the free-flowing attacking football. So they had traded their philosophy and their ethos a little bit, but they'd seen success. They'd seen a team that at one point was maybe 9 points clear, and then collapsed, which obviously is a big worry. Having seen how he's left the club, with talk of him being emotional and there being disagreements over like time frames and objectives, and that to me doesn't sound necessarily like the guy you want coming in to rebuild Rangers, because I'm sure Ajax has got a lot of pressure and media scrutiny, but compared to the Goldfish Bowl of Scotland, I wouldn't have been that excited about getting him. And Russell Martin, everything about Russell Martin makes me want to run for the hills. Like I didn't love him when he was here. There's just so much of the Mark Warburton vibe about coming up from a lower league to higher league and not having the players to play the way you want, but playing that way anyway. To me, it's almost the epitome of a very limited manager. I'm not saying we could get the best manager going, but when you think about Walter and managers who played different styles in different eras, Russell Martin coming into Scotland, I just think of that Mark Warburton, plan A doesn't work, plan B is to do plan A better. It's like, great if you've got better players, but if you don't, that's kind of it. Ancelotti, I won't lie, as the process has gone on, like Gerrard to me seemed like the safest candidate, and not perfect by any means, but just as kind of people fell by the wayside, Ancelotti looks like he's it, and he could be the next big thing in European football and in Scottish football. But I'll be honest, I know I'm getting the sort of negative thing today, but he gives me the fear because there's lots of unknowns. He's used to fine tuning elite level football players. At Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. That's not the same remit as developing sort of limited players or getting the best out of SPFL pros or bringing in young players and getting them polished up to sell on. He can maybe do it, but it's not the same job. Similarly, you're saying, is he we don't want a philosophy coach. Is he a philosophy coach? I don't know. His camp is producing. He's got a good media operation because, Guillaume Balaguer and a lot of the stuff coming out about Ancelotti's a lot about how he brings the club together and he leverages this, that, and the next thing, and that's all great when you're not in the building. The big unknown for me is it's all very well talking about his background and where he's been. He has never been the guy. He's never been the figurehead. He's never been the main man. And people talk about when Gerrard came in, he hadn't been a manager. He hadn't, but he had been the main man in that Liverpool team. He'd been the guy that had to go around the city, copping it when things were bad, talking to the fans when things weren't going well. And he carried teams to trophies. So he is used to pressure. He was used to the buck stopping with him. Ancelotti might be great at this. We simply don't know. And you can be the best coach playing, like FIFA, you can be the best coach playing Football Manager or giving advice to the coach. Once you're in the job and the pressure's on, that's what really defines the difference between successful managers and players. Who makes good decisions under pressure? And we simply don't know if Ancelotti's got that in his makeup. We don't. And it's a massive risk for me because he may be great, but he comes in and you're in the Goldfish Bowl, and suddenly everyone that comes into Rangers talks about, the managers all know we have to break the low block and yada, yada, yada. They all talk about how they're going to do it, and not all of them have managed it, because it's one thing known to break a low block. It's another thing breaking a low block in Scotland where players are allowed to kick lumps out of you. And even if you score that first goal, they just still sit in a low block thinking, I will be happy to nick a draw. So, the problem with me for Ancelotti is we simply don't know enough about him. So he could be great. He could be amazing. And I really hope that the recruitment process is unearthing like massive positives, but and please, people are saying I'm being negative. Don't think I'm comparing. I remember Andy Halliday and like other players talking about the reason that Pedro got the job is because he had this great PowerPoint presentation, and when he did the presentation to the players, Andy Halliday went, "That's how he got this job." So I'm not saying Ancelotti's like that. I'm just saying there's a massive difference between being an assistant coach and doing a good interview and between going up day after day when you're 3 points behind and the Old Firm game's coming up. That's when real pressure's on. So not being negative, and I think it probably looks like Ancelotti, but for me, there is a massive unknown there.
Just you mentioned Guillaume Balaguer there. I've been having a back and forward with him about getting him on the pod. That invite is still open, Guillaume. If you see this, please reach back out to me and you can come on and give us your opinion on Ancelotti. To be honest, I'd reached out to him because I wanted to get his opinion on Mourinho coming to us a few months ago. So that was my initial conversation with him. But now he's actually out and out really working for for his Ancelotti's camp. So come on and tell us why we should have him as Rangers manager, Guillaume. Stephen, are you free? Are you ready to come on here? Welcome to the pod. How are you?
Yeah, good guys. How are you?
I think we're all okay, mate. What's your opinions on the takeover finally getting over the line?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I mean, we talk about the time scales on it. It's a very complex takeover. The amount of different shareholders at Rangers, it was never going to be a one and done thing, but it's good to kind of get some clarity go before the summer, very semi-quickly from the end of the season. It kind of gives them the time that they kind of need to get things going, get things started for the season ahead, get the plans in place. I'm assuming, given the fact we've seen them pretty much, I think we've seen Kavanagh pretty much every home game for the last 3 months or something like that the planning has been in place. I know Farwell's not officially started yet, but he'll have been doing some work in the background. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. So I would hoping that the work's been done. It was just a case of finalising it, getting over the line, and it's good that it's finally happened, and we can move away from an era, where 10 odd years ago we had an AGM and a tent on the park looking like absolute idiots. I think we're going to be long past it. I think the guys have mentioned this one. They're not obviously Rangers men, but they're businessmen. They've got reputations of doing well in business. And at the end of the day, to get a football club business running well, you have to do it on the park. And hopefully we'll start to see something properly done here now, as opposed to what we've had for years, where we've been having to cobble things together. We've had calamity after calamity on the park. Hopefully the right moves are going to be made. As Cammy's mentioned, we're going to get the right people in place in the right jobs and get the club that we know of, all well and good, the most successful in Scotland for so long. And hopefully we get back to that reputation as soon as possible now.
In the press release, there is the figure of 20 million. Are you surprised they've mentioned any figures at all? And two, are you happy with that number?
I think they have to mention some sort of cash injection with these things. I think it's to get an idea of what they're putting in. I know there's no necessary with it because obviously we're a private company. We don't really kind of do something with it. But yeah, 20 million. I messaged my dad the press release, and the first thing he said to me, "Nothing, love. Glad this is done." But I was like, 20 million seems a bit short. But I think it is obviously just an initial investment. That might not be related to transfer business. That might be related just to general debts at the club. I don't know what our debt figures like as such. General thing, but I think it could be related to something like that, maybe on that one. But yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it because, as I say, that could just be an initial kit of putting in to clear some things off behind the scenes, and then obviously they're not going to be the type of guys I think who are going to, we've had it in the past where we get bailed out by the shareholders. I don't think we're going to see that to the extent they're going to want to run it sufficiently sustainably. So yeah, I wouldn't be worried too much about that, but I think that might be more just to kind of make things a bit more tidier in the background more than anything else.
Yeah, fair enough. And on the managerial side, are you hoping that comes to an end soon as well? Are you surprised it wasn't a joint announcement as well?
I had a feeling it was going to be joint. I thought this was how they were lining things up, that they were just kind of seeding it in that way. But yeah, I think it's got to come soon now. It can't go on for too much longer. It's been Billy mentioned about the you know, the PR job that Ancelotti's team have been doing in the last week. They want the job. They probably know as well as everybody else. Rangers are doing some talks with people, so I think they're just wanting to get something done quickly, so they know it's his next move. I could see something getting announced within the next few days, maybe I think Monday seems plausible. They don't really announce things on the weekend. Doesn't seem to be obviously not as many staff, especially in summer. So I think Monday would probably look like a feasible time. We'll probably get, you know, seedings over the weekend of, yeah, this person's getting announced. It does seem like Ancelotti's the man. I think he has been the prime candidate since his name first came out. I've mentioned a lot of chats and got a lot of slaggings about it as the Grim Reaper type idea of, I said nothing in anything. It was Gerrard was getting the job. It was just that Gerrard's the sexy name. He's the one that's going to get all the clicks. He's the one that's going to get all the search. So he was always going to be the one they went for. But I think it's interesting the fact that if these owners have been involved in some way, as they should be involved in the managerial process, because, you know, the likes of Dave King's not going to be, well, he's not there anymore, so he wasn't going to be there. So you guys had to be the ones leading it. But the old board probably would have let things raggle on and just kind of sat in their hands. But the fact that Ancelotti was the only guy up until Farioli came up the other day that was in a job at the point that the Rangers season finished, indicated to me that he was the guy that were banking on. Because if you look at it, they could have got Gerrard at any point, they could have got Marco Rose at any point, they could have got Russell Martin at any point, but they've hung on and hung on. They've looked at this guy who, as has been mentioned, he is a risk, but you don't hang about at clubs for that long with the personalities and the egos that go on at these football clubs, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Napoli, when he was there, unless you've got some sort of respect and they know what they're doing. And from all indications that's out there, he's the guy who runs the day-to-day. Carlo would just go to him apparently and just go, I'm playing X, Y, and Z at the weekend. And Ancelotti would craft something from that. Or Davide, sorry. Obviously, they're both Ancelotti. So you
need to specify, mate.
Yeah, I know. It's just used to that. So you tell people Ancelotti's coming to Rangers, they're like, yeah, no way you're getting Carlo. But yeah, you've got to. You can't be around those type of guys, you know, and not have that thing about you, you know. So because he's not managed, you know, we've had scenarios in Scotland in the past, you know, when Hearts had Ian Cathro, and Ian Cathro got slaughtered in the media, but he was kind of seen as one of the next big things. So look what Ian Cathro's doing now out in Portugal. You know, we don't really we take this thing about being an experienced, you know, manager too seriously. It's the same down in England, you know. It's the same guys that get touted with jobs all the time. The Deitches, the Allardyces, the Hodgsons, you know. Not bad coaches, but not enough people getting a chance. And I think there's a certain element of football, you know, ownership that are looking more towards this model. You know, we've seen it, you know, Brighton are doing it. Arsenal have done it with Arteta. I know he's never won a trophy, but there is a lot more looking into that. And I think we've been guilty in the past of being too safe. You know, we went for Beale when we could have got Farioli. You know, we got Clement when we could have went for Muscat. You know, we didn't go for Muscat because it's too similar to Ange. You know, so there's too much of that safe option. We need to kind of Gerrard would have been the safe option, as guys have said, but we need something with who's going to, you know, excite and also fill with the model. You know, Gerrard would not have fit the model that seemed to be going for. At least with Russell Martin, you can at least kind of see that he kind of fits that coach type model more. But with Gerrard, it just wouldn't have worked. It would have been a disaster from day one. So I think it's got to be. I would love Farioli be an option, but I can see him getting a better job. I personally think his agents are just touting him out and just using the Rangers job as something there, because he's been linked before. It's a natural thing. Rangers probably would have talked to him. But I think Ancelotti is the man, and I'm quite excited about the potential of it, because, like, as I've said, he's when Carlo came back to Madrid, what were Madrid doing? Madrid obviously did win Champions Leagues, but they weren't that well-fined unit, I think. But he's kind of transformed them with the old guard and these youth faces coming in, and they look exciting all the time. It was a surprise this year they didn't win anything at all. So yeah, I think it's the right move. I just hope that they do it sooner rather than later, because he will get bored, and he will eventually just go, bugger this.
Let me just give a shout out to our sponsor, because I know I haven't done that yet. Rangers match memorabilia, and you get a 10% discount there if you use the code Journal10. So it's off to the matchigo.com if you want to get your. Sorry, it's not .com, it's .co.uk. Off to the matchigo.co.uk, 10% off using the code Journal10. Please go and check them out. And also, we've got a lot of people watching at the moment. Head over to our YouTube page and like and subscribe over there. We're a growing channel, getting a lot of subscribers. Be nice to have you over there, and you get notifications when our shows go out live. Also, we've got loads of projects on the go at the moment, especially the managerial candidates, as well as other pods looking at the club as a whole. Cammy, can I come back to you, because I want to talk about Ancelotti. You know what the day is for the takeover. Andrew, I see you're waiting in the wings. Join us, please, if you want to. I'll not bring you in unless you're ready. But Cammy, back to you. Ancelotti is unknown in regards that he's not been a player anywhere, so he is going to be coming in without the gravitas that his dad has. For instance, he was a fantastic player. Does that help him when he's dealing with players that aren't maybe, your Real Madrid, Bayern Munich standard, that he's not coming at it from, well, I was a top player?
Possibly. I mean, I think what I've heard a lot of podcasts over the years, and they always talk about when a manager, coach is appointed, players make their mind up within the first 5 minutes when they're doing their dressing room introduction and that sort of situation. It's how he sells himself to the Rangers players, basically, and how he is able to get that buy-in and get his message across. I don't think Gerrard was Gerrard, Lampard, all these guys have had fantastic careers. Carlo Ancelotti had a great career as a player, and Cesc Fabregas and all these guys, so they're getting the respect off the back of their football career. But ultimately, I think the reference was made to Andy Halliday talking about the Pedro PowerPoint. You want the next coach to come in and the players after that 5-minute introduction to go, I want to play for this guy. And if you get that early buy-in, and then that conveys on to the training pitch. But I don't think his lack of being a player, I don't think that makes any difference. I think Stephen's spot on with regard to the experiences. You forget where Carlo Ancelotti's been across recent years, and he's not just had his boy next to him to carry the oranges sort of situation. He's been there to have a role, and an important role, and he's respected. And I think the PR piece that Guillaume Balaguer has obviously done from his people, it's very clear that David Ancelotti wants the Rangers job. But he's very clear in the respect that he's held and people within Spain and Germany, and he's going to be able to attract players that potentially, you think back to Gerrard. Gerrard managed to attract players because he was Steven Gerrard. David Ancelotti may be able to attract players that we may not have had any chance because of players talk sort of situation. So I think the fact that he's been across various countries and top 5 leagues, I think can only be a good thing. But it doesn't come without risk. But there's a risk involved in every appointment, but I'm pleased that it looks as though it's going to be a fresh approach moving forward.
Andrew, let me bring you in here. Andrew from the Ibrox channel. Welcome aboard today, mate. How are you feeling with this whole takeover nonsense?
Howdy ho! I feel absolutely ecstatic. It's just been absolutely brilliant. We've had the kind of nerves this morning from things, we've heard that, there's going to be an announcement. The announcement itself didn't surprise me in the kind of way they've done it. It's very similar to kind of what happened at Leeds, more of a kind of statement. The things that I look at just straight away is the fact that look where we were last August. We weren't even at Ibrox. The team was looking absolutely terrible. We weren't really bringing any players in. It was looking slow. everything just seemed, no matter where we turned, everything was bad. I can only see this as a positive. I can't see anything getting any worse than what it already has. There's chat about, of course, £20 million to be invested. Now, that might not directly go towards players. That might go to other things as well. The interview that yourself, Billy, and Scotty did with Matt Maiocco was very eye-opening into things like traditions about how the 49ers enterprises, worked with Leeds, and they're very they think about these things. They don't just go, we'll do this because it'll make us more money. They are, keen on tradition and things, and that is greatly important here at Rangers. Andrew Kavanagh, I think he'll be fantastic at the club. I really do think he'll be a good voice. It's good to see Parag as well, looking like he's going to be vice chairman as well. I think it's good that the heads of the organisation are going to be very hands-on with this, because it's very easy for some kind of big corporate enterprises to go, right, we'll delegate this to somebody else. They want to be very hands-on with this, and that seems very good. Andrew Kavanagh himself said he wants to bring Rangers back to where it belongs, at the top. That's what we want. I'll be honest, there are things, in the stadium, there are things with catering, there are things that people go on about for a while. None of that will matter if we've got the Scottish Premier League trophy being waved in our faces in May. I think focus on that first and the rest later, but excited is an understatement, Billy. I'm absolutely buzzing.
And do you feel this has dragged on a bit, or are you happy with the kind of time scale? Obviously, we find out, we're led to believe the talks began around about October time. I think you mentioned that, Cammy. It certainly seems like it's been going on a long time for me, and it's a lot of relief today.
Could you imagine if it was October that we found out that this was going to take place? We'd be absolutely climbing the walls. It probably would have made things feel a little bit better knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, because things were just so dark, weren't they? But no, absolutely brilliant. And here's to the future. The one thing I will say, things could not have been any worse than what it was last August. So I know there are, you got to look at people coming in. You don't fully know them, what they're about, but there's money being invested. That is the key thing.
I'm trying to think who to come to next. Put your hand up if you've got something to say. Otherwise, I'll just pick randomly. But what I do want to talk about is in Scotty's interview and in my interview with Matt Maiocco that you mentioned, Andrew, he talks about the stadium and the surrounding footprint being improved. But that was kind of cold water poured on that 2 weeks ago interview with Stefan, who said he'd only really be interested, only makes financial sense to invest in Rangers if we get to the Champions League. So, Cammy, I guess I'll come to you. You regularly at the ground and you're regularly outside the stadium. Would you see, or do you see an improvement needed round about the stadium at the moment? Do you see potential for the stadium and the surrounding area to be improved?
I think it's been touched on but with the previous board. I think it has been recognised that what we deliver on a match day isn't sufficient. I'm interested to see what they do with New Edmiston House. I still think that the sort of configuration with regard to that, I think that has been referenced. So I think there is more that can be done. There's loads of things need done around the stadium, but it's about balancing the priorities with regard to what is the most important, so on and so forth. Just quickly, while it's in my head, I'd seen a few comments about the 20 million. See if they'd come out and said we've put 250 million. You're not putting yourself into a very good position when you're trying to sign players. So you have to box clever with your communication. This is, it's not a question of like putting all your cards out for everybody to know what's there. I think it's about being a sensible business and doing things and spending our money better. Regardless of this 20 million, Rangers are still turning over 85, 90 million pounds in a year. We need to spend that money better. That's what we've not been doing for too long. So if you spend your money better, that to win in Scotland, it shouldn't be as difficult as we make it to be. But your point around the stadium, I'm interested to hear more of their plans once they get their feet under the table. But there's loads can be done. You want people to be within the environment of Ibrox for 12:30 to 6 o'clock on a match day. In an ideal situation, you want the Rangers Football Club as the ones delivering the match day experience and delivering the value that people want to be within the stadium footprint for longer. You're not just going to go to the Loudon at 12:30. If you want to do that, then great. And then you're going to rock up to Ibrox at 2:55, and then you're going to go back to the Loudon after the game. A Ranger's going to have somewhere that's well priced, that's going to be suitable for families, it's going to be suitable for groups of guys, all these sort of situation. And I think America is, having been to the new Spurs stadium just after it opened, I think Daniel Levy took a lot of the development of the Spurs stadium is based on the American experience. And I think there'll be people who have been down for American football and so on and so forth. I think that America knows how to do match day experience and all that sort of thing. So I'm interested to see how that comes about. I mean, ultimately it's going to be the fans, etc., that are going to pay for that. But as long as we are getting a good quality of catering, hospitality, match day experience, all we want, we don't mind paying for things as long as we're getting value for what is being offered. And that's, I want a winning Rangers team on the park, Billy, as we all do. But I'm really excited about everything else that comes round about it, and the fresh ideas and the fresh energy that these people are going to bring to us, and just make going to Ibrox enjoyable again. I've been going to Ibrox for a long time, and the last couple of years have been a real struggle, and it has become very much a chore. That excitement is now, that you've got that wee bit of excitement off the back of this news today, that better times are ahead. But allow them to get their feet under the table and start to share information about how they are going to improve things. And I think that point about get Raskin to sign a new deal soon, these are all the things that haven't been able to happen. The discussions with the big earners or the key assets, because the takeover hasn't been done and dusted. We are now in a position that we can put an offer to Nico's people and say, right, you're on 15 grand a week. We're going to bump you to 25 grand a week as recognition. But if an offer comes in a couple of years' time, you'll go with our good wishes. All these things can now start to happen. So I'm sorry for rambling on there, but there's so much to talk about, Billy.
Billy, if I can come to you as well, you were going to go into, say, an interview with Andrew Kavanagh, Murag Parate. What would be the questions you'd want answered from them just now as regards their intentions? And you're muted at the moment in case you didn't know.
What I'd want answered and what they'd actually answer will be two different things, because I think...
Well, give me what you'd like answered.
I mean, I would like to know what their genuine long-term objectives were in terms of, like, you know, what they see for the club, both where they see us performing. You know, are they happy for us to be at Europa League level? Are they absolutely hell-bent on getting us into Champions League? Also, I'd like to know what the thinking is behind the recruitment strategy for the manager, because we seem to have... I always get a wee bit sort of like nervy when I see us looking for different types of managers. I feel like you should be looking at a similar profile if you have a plan. So, you know, Steven Gerrard is very different to Ancelotti, who is different from Francioli, who's different to Rosa. And that makes me wonder, you know, do they have a set plan for the type of football, the type of manager they want in? And what is going to be the plan for the famed player trading model? You know, what is going to be the plan there? Because that's going to be one of the revenue streams that they've looked at and went, this has not been tapped. Because if they can get, I mean, it all kind of snowballs. If they can get us into the Champions League, the value of the players we are punting on the player trading model goes up 10, 20 million, because they're proving themselves at the top table instead of Europa League. Just a slight tangent into the Raskin situation. I've got to be honest, I would slightly disagree with Cammy. I would get Raskin punted in the summer for decent money. For one reason, I think I think he's gone through a purple patch, and whether this is a purple patch where he's going to get even better and keep getting better, or whether it's a purple patch that tails off next season, or he gets an injury, or he doesn't kick on. We've had too many players that have got to peak value, and we've rolled the dice again, and they've actually decreased in value. You know, the likes of Kent and Morelos spring to mind. So I would hate to see Raskin go, but I think if we are going to be growing up about like having a war chest for next season, and you're looking at selling obvious sellable assets or Raskin or Igaman, I would rather sell Raskin, because Igaman looks like he's got a good bit of development he could still do with us. Raskin has spent 2.5 years here and has been good for the guts of a season. So I think risk wise, he'd be the one to cash your chips in on. Like I said, what I'd like to know is what the plan is in terms of the playing style, in terms of the structure. You know, how is it going to work? You know, it looks like we're going down a coach model rather than the traditional Rangers manager model. How are they expecting that to work? Because it's great on a piece of paper, but we all know that successful Rangers teams have had those figureheads. They've had like strong characters like Walter Smith, like Alec McLeish, like Dick Advocate, Stephen Gerrard. So how are they going to mitigate for that? If you're not going to give him all the responsibilities and all the duties of a manager, how's it going to work? Because, like, you know, the press are still going to treat him as a manager, even if he doesn't have the clout of a manager. So I'd like to think they've thought that through, but I'd also like to know how it was going to work. And I would like to know, it's a bit of a bugbear. I mean, I would like to know what the plan is to take on our adversaries in the media and the Scottish Football Administration and Scottish civil life. I would like to know, you know, what's their plan for dealing with Glasgow City Council if we decide we want to push to get Ibrox Station opened again. You know, how are we going to deal with things like that? How are we going to deal with the Football Administration that, you know, we've got guys who are nominally the chairman of the SPFL who've never held a similar role, who are getting paid by companies owned by Dermot Desmond. We might not be able to change that immediately, but what is our strategy for taking this on? What's our strategy for showing we won't be pushed around? What's our strategy for keeping the media honest and hopefully by keeping the media honest, keeping referees and the football administration honest? So yeah, I think I'd love the idea that they're going to come in with that sort of that American attitude of we will not be pushed around, our brand will not be tarnished, and we will not be cheated out of things. And I know people kind of roll their eyes sometimes at that. Stats are very clear on things like yellow cards and fouls per yellow card and penalties and stuff like that, that the landscape in Scotland is tilted. And it's tilted in football on the pitch, it's tilted in the Football Administration, it's tilted in things like Scottish civil life as well. And I'd like to see, what I'd really like to see is them tell us they have a plan to both intimidate people who need to be intimidated and charm people who can be charmed. And I'd like to see that level of professionalism and savvy, so that what we actually have is, I was going to swear there, I can't do that. But people who have got a nice smile but are tough as nails underneath it in the interests of Rangers, if that makes sense. And I'd like to hear what their plans were for that. Because if they're coming in just thinking, oh, we'll all just get along like previous administrations have thought, or if they think that just because a good idea benefits the whole of Scottish football, when they present it to the SFA and SFPFL, they're going to go, oh, that sounds like a good idea, we'll do that. That's not how Scottish football runs. So I really hope they've got quite a detailed plan for dealing with that side of things, and I'd love to hear what it was.
Sounds like you're saying speak slowly but carry a big stick. Is that the kind of thing you're thinking?
Yeah, definitely a big stick. There was smiling, and then there was another one. But yeah, definitely. I'd like us to be. I'd like a bit more Dave King energy than Paul Murray and energy, if that makes sense.
Bob, I'll come to you because I know you've got to shoot off soon. How do you feel in regards that kind of what Billy's talking about there, to fight their corner a bit more than the previous board has been?
Yeah, certainly. I think they need to come in again. You know, we've seen, or we've been hurt too much in the past by a lack of communication from the club, both to us as a support and to the wider media in Scotland. And I think these guys, probably having come to the game since the turn of the year, have certainly got a flavour of how we are viewed in Scottish media and media afar, and they're certainly coming in with their eyes wide open to the certain differences between us and other clubs in this country. So I certainly agree with Billy's point of they need to set their stall out pretty early. As and when something comes up, whether it's at the start of the season, that first wrongful decision or controversial decision that goes against us, there certainly needs to be something that comes out from them as a board to say we're not going to stand for this anymore. We are, we're not going to just lie and just take a beating like we've done in the past. We're going to fight our corner, as Billy said, and that may cause ripples, but then again, why continue in the way that has been going for the last 10, 15 years that we've just had to take it being seen as second best or second class, whatever you want to call it. We certainly have the financial backing now of this consortium to hopefully make inroads again, both on and off the park. But yeah, I just want to touch quickly, Billy, if you don't mind, before I drop, that it'll be interesting. I think just going back to what you mentioned about the manager, I think we're obviously waiting for Kevin Thelwell to officially start his job, but obviously we know that he's been in and around the club for a number of weeks since it was announced. At and around the fans forum, so I certainly think that they're hitting the ground running with that, and I think that the manager announcement will hopefully be early next week, and then hopefully from that we'll start to hopefully get back to enjoying the transfer rumours of players rather than what's going on off the park, rather than what's on the park rather than what's off it.
Stephen, if I can come to you, maybe just give you a better opinion on it. You've been more informed on this than me. How do you go around asking the questions that you want the answers to, but maybe an owner or these kind of guys won't want the answer? How do you go around about that by getting the answer you're looking for?
In terms of the manager or the owners?
Just when I was saying to Billy there about what questions would you like to ask them, and he mentioned, look, I'm not going to get the answers to some of them, but there must be a way around of speaking to these guys to find out what their real plans are.
It can depends on the people. Some of them are more open than others about things. A lot of them don't really talk without a press person present, and even when you get that, you won't always get a pure answer. You might get a PR puff piece thing. Is you'll see a lot of that stuff. You could eye a PR puff answer anytime it comes back to you. But I think it's just I think the American approach to it is quite different in terms of what we maybe have here in the UK. When Scotty spoke to Matt initially about the 49ers stuff, where he was mentioning I hung about with him in a bar while he was watching the American football. I've never seen anything. You don't really see that to the same extent here, or if it's done, it's not really spoken about, or it's maybe more off the record. So I think they may have a bit more of a relaxed feel to the things about that, which would be good. It would be interesting to see where the relationships come between, because I'm not going to name names for obvious reasons, people, but you know that when you see stories from people, you can tell exactly where it came from in the media type thing. So it'd be interesting to see who builds the relationships with these guys and who has the most reputable stuff. But you kind of see how the things work in Leeds, and he doesn't speak a lot. I'm not going to butcher his name. I've never said his name yet, but you guys have said it better than me. Yeah, him. I don't think he speaks much, but when he does, he speaks very well. So I would like to hope that when they come in, they will have done their research on who's got the best relationship with Rangers, and then judge it from there. I hope they just don't chuck things anywhere in terms of stuff. So it might be.
Well, can I ask you on the relationship building side? Is it the journalists that chase the relationship, or is it the guys in charge that go looking for a journalist to talk to?
It can be a bit of both, if I'm being honest. The journalists will essentially, a journalist will build sources up based on trust a lot of the time. Trust or just general presence in it. People will reach out to them, and you'll tend to find stuff. Somebody will reach out to a journalist and say something and say they've found something out, a bit of information, such as like Rangers are getting taken over in a month's time, and you may be like, nah. If you never heard from, you'd be like, no, I'm not gonna. No, I'll leave it maybe a bit. But if you find out it's true, then there's a bit more digging. You'll then be much more trusting of it, and then you'll clarify these things with these people, and then they'll become genuine sources. And at that point, the journalist will then obviously reach out a bit more to the people, to the source. But you also find that the journalist will also a lot of the time nowadays it goes through PRs. It's a bit more difficult to get that personal relationship, but over time, once you do a lot more stuff with them, they will eventually become personal relationships, and you can feel a lot more comfortable reaching out to people. You've probably seen that in this podcast, Billy, with yourself and Scotty doing stuff. You usually after speaking to so many people, you'll know exactly, get a better idea of who you can message and ask, and know that they're going to not give you something a lot of rubbish. So it works both ways in that regard. I've only learned this from working in the journalism business for as long as I have. I'm not trained as a journalist, so if there's a journalist watching this and says I'm a lot of rubbish, please let me know. I've just more of observations and how things work. But yeah, I think it works in both ways, and we found that a lot of the time with how this story's broke, how the managerial stuff's broke. There's a lot of stuff like the same name, like Dave King. He'll obviously, I think he reaches out to folk. I don't think people will be going to Dave King all the time, but maybe some folk will push to Dave King because they know he was a shareholder to make the names. So, and you'll find that maybe people who broke the Takeover story will have heard it directly as opposed to chasing it up. I don't think anybody in their right mind will have went to somebody with nothing and go, our Rangers getting taken over. No, it will have came from some. I don't know where it would have came from, but it will have came from something. So it all depends, but you find that maybe get a sniff from something and go back. It's a lot of to and fro, to sum it up. Yeah,
there is, mate. Andrew, you've been sitting there very patiently. I'm going to hand over to you. I'm still going to be here. It's just that I feel like I'm running out of things to ask the boys. A couple of them have got to drop off in the next couple of minutes. So feel free to ask around the block for any questions you were looking for the opinions on of the guys currently on, mate.
Yep, no worries. Well, it's, of course, anyone just joining us, it is, of course, the American Takeover. It has been officially announced by the club. Looks like Andrew Kavanagh will be the chairman. Parag Marathe is going to be the vice chairman. Something that struck me with Parag, which came from Scott's interview a few weeks ago with Matt Maiocco, who's quite a close friend of Parag Marathe, about how he is when he's watching Leeds games. So he'll sit at home, they'll be watching Leeds games, he'll be screaming at the TV. I do get that he is going to be passionate from what I've seen so far from that interview. Very good interview. The same with the one you did as well, Billy. Some very insightful, eye-opening things into the 49ers enterprises and the guys at the top. Obviously, at the minute, it looks like a 20 million injection at the start. Now, it doesn't mean that that's the final amount. It could be that there could be more money throughout the season, depending on what's needed. One thing I did spot from STV Sport just a few minutes ago, it did say that, I don't know how factual it is, because they don't generally have too much in regards with Rangers exclusives, but it does say from STV Sport that it looks like the manager's going to be appointed next week. So Billy, I'm going to come to you. Do you think it is Ancelotti? Billy J, that is. Sorry, not. I'll give you a wee bit of rest, Billy.
Yeah, I think you're right, Andrew. I think STV don't have an awful lot factual, because we are sitting here saying it's probably going to be next week. We're just not putting a headline out. It would make perfect sense. These guys seem like the 49ers group seem like they understand media management, they understand the right order to do things, and the momentum. We're all going into the weekend, as various podders have said, buzzing. We're optimistic now. We're looking forward to the next bit of good news, and it is going to hopefully for a while be good news stories. It's going to be new manager. Whoever the new manager is, whatever the reservations, we'll all get behind them, we'll all get excited, and then it will be new signings. So I would have thought Monday, Tuesday would make sense to keep the momentum rolling, to keep the kind of the feel good going on the story. And I think, I'm really interested to see how it is, because is Ancelotti doing a PR job because he's just really savvy and he wants the fans on side, or is he doing a PR job because this is still a live interview process and he doesn't feel like he's got the job nailed down? Because I think at various points we've all thought it was definitely Gerrard or definitely Ancelotti or definitely not, or maybe it was Russell Martin. So I think that's the one thing. If they want to keep the fans on board, they don't want that to be a saga. So I would have thought Monday, Tuesday, that's when we hopefully hear about the manager with any luck, and then we can all start theorising about how he's going to play and who he's going to bring in, and if he can get decent players, if it's Ancelotti from like Madrid B team, and sell them in the idea of playing in the Champions League. So I think we're rolling into the weekend happy, and I think next week, if the 49ers keep up this sort of professional, savvy media approach, I think we're going to hear about the manager. We're all going to be buzzing about that, and then it's on to the signings and everything. So, for all that I have been tarred with the negative Nelly brush today. It's just my natural caution in situations like this. I am actually buzzing. I am looking forward to seeing what they come up with. And I think next week's going to be pretty fun, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it does sound like it is going to be pretty fun. We were kind of debating a few weeks ago what way they would do this. I kind of says I'd imagine they'd announce the takeover first, then the manager. I think it gives a bit of clarity, which is what obviously they've seemed to have done. The important thing we got from today was that there is going to be a general meeting on Monday, the 23rd of June. So I think then we'll hear how the money's going to be spent in a sense. I think we'll find out what the plans are for pre-season, for our Champions League qualifiers, because obviously they are vastly important, and they will be big for the finances just in general. I think there's some resolutions that are to be put forward. But this is let's not forget, this is going to be a long-term investment from the 49ers. This initial 20 million, I'm seeing on Twitter at the minute that, only 20 million, you couldn't buy Hatate's right leg for that. Well, this is just the start. Obviously, we have to follow PSR, financial legalities and things. So for me, the future's bright. And Scotty's just come back from Ibrox. So you got a bit of a tan on your face there from being at Ibrox. How was it?
Oh, mate, there's never a wasted trip up to that beautiful stadium, Miles, but I'm saying that without saying it, if that makes any sense. There was next to nobody there. It wasn't. I was expecting a bit of a buoyant atmosphere when I went up, and folk to chat to, and there was press there. Gordon Duncan was there with Sky Sports, but he was wrapping up, ready to go, so I couldn't even get him on. There was a few others over, the grassy kind of lay-by at the roundabout. But
the BBC Sports Scotland roundabout.
Yeah, I'm about to say one journalist will be over at that roundabout for sure.
But that was pretty much it, to be honest with you, mate. There was your usual folk getting in and out of shop, but apart from that, it was quite quiet. I'd walked around the stadium a couple of times, and then I thought, I'm needing more on a podcast than sitting up there freezing, you know what I mean? So I thought I'd come down and join you guys.
Oh, definitely. So obviously we've seen the statement that came out from Rangers today. We've also seen the kind of words that have come out from Andrew Kavanagh himself. So Andrew Kavanagh, for those who have just joined, I will read a little section of what he was saying, because it all does seem very, very positive. I did have it right here, and I haven't got it now. Andrew Kavanagh said, "We are deeply grateful for the trust placed in us by the Rangers board, shareholders, staff and supporters. The club's history and traditions speak for themselves, but the history doesn't win matches. We know that the true way to honour the club's heritage will be to drive performance. Our focus is simple: elevate performance, deliver results and bring Rangers back to where it belongs, at the top." So extremely strong words there from Andrew Kavanagh. We've been debating what Andrew Kavanagh is as a character. He seems to be a little bit of a mysterious man at the minute. We've seen him in the crowd. We've seen him kind of with the cameras coming out the stadium. Obviously, he's a bit of a tycoon in the health sector. He's very high up kind of with the finances, and I think he'll be somebody very good to speak out against hopefully certain things, because Rangers as a club, I think, have let far too much slide in recent years. We used to be called Statement FC a few years ago, and we've gone the kind of complete opposite way. But Cammy, what would be the initial thing that you're looking for when it comes to dealing with the sheer incompetence at the SFA? Once again, of course, you look back to our final game of the season, which was quite fitting. Obviously, we have a goal that's not given as a goal. It's somehow the technology that was there couldn't see it. The Hibs got the other end and scored, and that goal counts. Do you imagine there'll be a dynamic change in the way that we deal with things now? Now we've got the kind of big American corporate structure, so to speak, in place?
Possibly, but I think it's very difficult within the people that are very much entrenched in the key positions within the SPFL, etc. So we obviously rotate our board position with Celtic on an annual basis. So it'll be interesting to see if that is Patrick Stewart as the CEO that takes our message forward. Is Patrick Stewart going to be part of the bricks moving forward, sort of thing? But it is these things are important, but I don't think they are top of the list of priorities for them coming in. I think getting a successful Rangers team that's winning on the park, I think, will be all the other issues with regard to the issues the many issues that Scottish media, Scottish Life, Scottish football authorities bring, and their dislike for all things Rangers. I'm interested to see how their approach differs to what has gone before. No matter who's in charge, I think we should have been making representations to the SFA, SPFL about how things have to be better. I think Scottish football, the way it's run, is going down the tubes, and I think they will very quickly realise some of the incompetence that permeates throughout the game. But I think it is important, Andrew, but I don't think it will be top of their immediate list of priorities, certainly in the course of this summer. But it's something that we have to be a strong voice. It appears to me that other people basically call the tune within Scottish football, and everybody, that's the way it's been for the last 20, 25 years. We have to get an equal voice, and I'm interested to see how their approach, and if they have a conciliatory approach, or if they go in with 2 feet, or what their approach is. Only time will tell. But I think it's mad. I digress slightly. Try to keep an eye on the comments, which are like moving faster than probably I can, to be honest with you. One of the comments was at 2:30, and it was somebody was asking for how much have we got to spend on transfers and X, Y, Z. The announcement only got made 90 minutes ago, and we're wanting all this information. I think a lot of it will be kept in-house. I'm a great believer in actions speak louder than words, and I think you referenced Kavanagh being quite a quiet character, but sometimes the quiet ones are the ones you need to watch, and sometimes the quiet ones are the ones that actually can get things done, sort of thing. So I don't want to hear Rangers chairman, Rangers chief executives talking Statement FC, making statements just for the sheer sake of it. By being strong leaders and being the leading club in Scottish football again. We've not been the leading club in Scottish football for a long, long time. across the course of the next 5 to 10 years, we have to try to get back into that position of dominance. And hopefully, as part of the 49ers group and the actions that they put in place, allows that to sort of move forward. But there's so many things for them to try to get their teeth into, to be honest, Andrew. But I think as time passes and the general meeting and fans forums and engagement sessions and all that sort of stuff, I think more information will come out. And I don't think that they're not going to send us an email with 10 bullet points, which appears to be what some people are going to want. That isn't the way it works. We just have to trust the people that are going to be employed. Hopefully the right people are being employed. And I keep going back to that. And that is the key to any business, is employing the right people in the key positions. And those people in the key positions then making the right decisions. Chelsea, Man United have just had massive takeovers across the last couple of years, have spent hundreds of millions. Chelsea's case, they've spent about £2 billion to win the Conference League. Do you know what I mean? It's about how you spend it, and it's about having a coherent strategy and everything making sense for me. But I'm really excited about Rangers being a proper football club and a proper modern football operation again. That gives me hope that we are going to be competitive moving forward, which is all of us. And if we're competitive every season, we're going to lift trophies, and that's all we want.
That is simple, isn't it? That is all we want, and I totally agree with you there, Cammy. Just before I add Curry into the mix, just to go through the board changes in case anybody hasn't seen. So Andrew Kavanagh is going to be the chairman. Parag Marathe is going to be the vice chairman. Fraser Thornton, Patrick Stewart is named there. John Halstead, George Taylor, Eugene Schneuer, Andrew Clayton, and Mark Tabor. So they are the names at the minute. Obviously, things can change as the summer goes on. Don't forget, we are sponsored to Off to the Match I Go. Head to offtothematchigo.co.uk. You'll get 10% off your purchases there with the code Journal10. Guys, there's loads of people watching this. There are thousands of people watching this at the minute on YouTube and on the socials. Do like, do subscribe, and turn your notifications on. And I'm just going to introduce now. Curry is there. How you doing, Curry? Are you well?
Not too bad, mate. How are you doing yourself?
Oh, do you know what? I am fine and dandy. I absolutely am. I couldn't be better. The sun is shining. I'm going to go crack an American beer soon. And it's just a great day. What are your initial thoughts, Curry? The takeover has been announced officially. There's no more fake over chats, even though there is still some, unbelievably. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm still apprehensive, to be honest with you, because it hasn't actually been confirmed by any of our good friends from across the city that it's actually really happened. So I'm still a bit apprehensive of what could be actually going on. But we'll need to wait and see. What we'll do is we'll check Twitter or X later on, and we'll get confirmation of everything that's actually happening, how much we've got to spend, how this is going to be a big failure, and how we'll never be able to bring players in. And the new manager has failed even before he's stepped a foot in the door. So once I hear for that lot, then I'll decide, mate.
Well, Kerry Fell has been absolutely interesting today, which is definitely something. So yeah, good to have you on, Curry. What do you make of it so far? There is chat of a £20 million investment to start with. Do you see things changing very quickly going into next season, or do you think there's going to be a long road with the new takeover?
Well, on the initial 20 million that they're going to put in, that's, I mean, say, I think as Cammy said, I'm actually quite mad that the Cammy's left, because I feel like the substitute, I feel like Ross McCausland coming on for Tierney right now. The standard has just went straight downhill. I'm just like, this is no real.
Well, thank you to Cammy, thank you to Billy as well. They've been on there for a good couple of hours, but they've had to shoot off, so thank you guys. But sorry, Curry, the floor is yours.
Today with me coming in, has it? It's like, oh Christ, they're bloody Curry, right? We're out of here right now before we get classed with that numpty, right? But first of all, I think the way that it's all happening, I think there needs to be a national inquiry, to be honest with you, because I think it's a bit of a shame about what's happened with Celtic supporters and their accountancy skills, because a lot of them must have been dropped their head as babies, because their takes on this is unbelievable. There needs to be a national inquiry about it, so we'll leave it at that. I'm apprehensive, mate. Obviously, I'm excited. I said on X, I'm really excited about it, and I hope it does put us in the direction that we're hoping it takes us. But there's always that little bit of doubt. I know Mr. Doom and Gloom. I'm basically Victor Meldrew of Rangers. I don't want us going down the same route. You mentioned Manchester United. The shit show that's going on with them is unbelievable. The amount of money that Chelsea spent is, I think, I've seen something like 1.3 billion they've spent over the last 3 years to win a European Conference Cup, and they basically think that's a success. I don't want that. I'm hoping that we bring in some quality players, that standard that we need, strengthen the Scottish side of the squad, get a good basis, and now that some of the old board have moved on, I'm hoping the ethos comes back to what Rangers were built on. Everything that the fans through the years since the club was founded, the millions of fans that's built this club and made it what the club is, I want that to continue again, because this old board was starting to forget that, and the fans were starting to take a back seat on Rangers, and I'm hoping that it doesn't go the same way with the new. I've seen the statement that they made, and a lot of people say it's birthday care pish. I'm hoping that it goes a wee bit deeper, and I hope it's meant, and I hope they follow through. So that's my sensible head on it.
Yeah. The way I look at it, Curry, is, a multinational organisation like the 49ers Enterprises, obviously they'll want to make money, and that is the goal. The only way to make money is trophies and European success, and they will not want to see this fail. They will try their best. It's a different scenario in Scotland. Scotland has access to the Champions League and European football at different stages with, in theory, less money invested than what you would do with a club down south. Obviously, they've got Leeds United, but the chances of them qualifying for a European spot, granted there's loads of spots in England, it would take a very long time to do that. So there is that kind of almost, instant potential, revenue stream right there. We are in Europe every year, obviously Europa League, but the Champions League is the one we need to crack. We make a lot of money commercially through season ticket sales and through merchandise. The Cousteau deal was a phenomenal deal financially, and when you actually break it down compared to other deals, it is absolutely brilliant. We will buy anything with a Rangers badge on, so they will be looking to invest. Now, Scotty, I'm going to ask you this. This was one part that I saw from the statement earlier. They said, simply put, our goal is to win trophies in Scotland and be able to compete at a high level in Europe while laying a foundation of financial sustainability for the future. As our first step, we're investing fresh capital into Rangers, which will be strategically deployed on and off the pitch. While we recognise the importance of resources, we believe that thoughtful, disciplined investment, guided by a clear strategy, is the path to enduring success. Every decision, whether sporting or business, will be made with the club's long-term success and sustainability in mind. So they're not going gung-ho, are they, Scotty?
No, but they are. They needed to put in something. They put in £20 million, right? As Cammy says earlier on, which I thought was a brilliant point, if they'd said they're going to put in £250 million, then clubs are going to take the absolute mick out of us when it comes to buying a player. Jeff Day, that cost 300 to 500 grand last summer, would now cost £2.5 million, for example, and he's not worth that. So, it's a smartly worded statement. It's a good start to what I hope is a long and fruitful relationship between them and the Rangers fans and us as fan media and all the rest of it as we try to move forward. It's just, as I said earlier, it's a brilliant day all in. you need to sit back and enjoy it. All the doubts and all the worries and anxieties will come later. Just enjoy a day that this is a monumental day in Rangers history. It's absolutely massive for us.
I 100% agree, because I know that some people try and take a bit more of a conservative look, like we had Billy's comments earlier, but we have been at the lowest of the low. We have been there, and we were almost revisiting that at the start of last season. We can't, with the injection, at the end of the day, the big thing for us is money. It's money that's needed. Yes, you need to be a well-run club as well, which these guys have got the expertise of running successful sporting enterprises. So they have got that. These aren't just some random guys coming off the street, you know, that are saying that they're going to do this, that, and the other. They know what they're doing, and that's the thing. We have got a genuine sporting brand behind us. Obviously strong ties with Red Bull. You know, maybe that will come to play something at some point, which would be phenomenal as well. Curry, what's your take on the managerial situation at the minute? Obviously the announcement's been made. They reckon next week for a manager. Do you think they got their mind made up at the minute? Because obviously the 49ers will be behind the management search. Do you think that you really need to get the manager in place now with these upcoming qualifiers, or would you rather they took their time a little bit and got the right man?
Well, Scotty already knows the whole, what I've said. Whether he's shared it with any of you guys or no, I don't know. But so far, I think I've been pretty accurate, Scotty. What I've said.
Dead on. So
regarding the takeover, regarding people that are coming in, people going out, for me, I'll come out and say it now. What I understand is that there'll be no announcement made until Thelwell is in the building. Now,
it's about Monday, isn't it?
Well, it's supposed to be Monday. So as soon as he's in, there'll be near enough a joint statement made about a manager coming in as well. That's what I've been told. But then again, it's just like the usual way. Every other site, every other chat is going to be like, oh, you've heard that from next door neighbours, Timmy Bird's Dustbin Man's Milkman's brother, right? It's like that, right? But the stuff that I told Scotty is for the same person. So I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I'm hoping that it is right. We need to get the right guy in, no matter where it is. We need to get the right type of manager in for this league. It's not even about getting the right manager for Rangers. We need to get somebody in that understands what it takes to beat the low block. That's the thing that's beat us over the last 4 seasons, is playing teams that play with a back 10 and we can't break them up. We need to bring in players that are able to smash that. And we've not had that. It's like this season alone, we're on the same Paris, that mob do now. We proved it, the results have proved it. We were basically robbed out a trophy. That was their fault, but we competed. They beat us once this season. So we are on par with them. Do they have better players? Aye. Do they have better depth? I would say aye. Now, that's one of our downfalls. We don't have the depth. And I don't think we've got the mentality because of the players that still exist within our club now. That needs to be addressed first and foremost. Is not so much who's coming in, because whoever the manager that comes in, I'm going to have faith that they're going to bring in a standard of player that we need. But I'm hoping that we get the ones that need to be removed out the club. Because if they do stay, I'm going to say it now, we're going to win hee-haw. If we're still playing with the majority of players that we've had for the last few seasons now, that needs to change. So I'm hoping, as I said, I don't care who the new manager is. As long as it's no fucking Russell Martin, I don't care. So,
so James Tavernier is okay for manager, yeah?
Before I take Russell Martin.
Andrew,
So
can I quickly set Curry off on Tav? See earlier on in your group chat, Curry, Doug, I was on it, them like announcements at 1 o'clock, blah blah blah. The takeover's definitely happening today. Doug comes in and says if Tav scores 2 more penalties, he's getting into top 10. He scored more penalties in his career than Ronaldinho. You can imagine how that went down.
Oh Jesus!
Well, in the middle of a multi-million-pound takeover, and Doug's like, "Not."
I had to mute myself there, mate, because I was just I was ready to bite. I was really ready to bite.
It's one of OG, to be fair.
Oh no! I just I'm sure Doug does that just to, he's hoping that I'm watching. He's fucking what?
Just a wee bit of quick business with these guys. So there's 2,870 watching over on Twitter. That's amazing. If you could head on over to YouTube channel, like, subscribe for us, that would be absolutely amazing. 161 watching on YouTube, and if you've not liked it, get liking a video for us. It's just a quick thank you earlier on. I don't know if Billy pulled these up, but thank you to Beat Bop Boop. I think he's changed his name to that, so I've got to say it out loud. But thank you for your contribution, and also a thank you to Paul, who's one of my moderators, who's contributed as well. Sorry, Andrew, I just wanted to.
No. Absolutely fantastic from the guys there. And do get like and subscribe and turn your notifications on.
Let's talk. You're sorted then.
Oh, brilliant.
Sorry,
right. Let's look at obviously I think last year we had an operating loss of around about 17 million. So obviously there are some gaps to plug. Scotty, do you think this 20 million could be part of that at the minute, just kind of offsetting that a little bit, and further investment will come later on? Obviously, as you say, we're not going to, and as Cammy said as well, rightfully, we're not going to kind of boast about how much we are going to be spending because other clubs are going to be coming in. What do you reckon? Can they turn that around very quickly? The kind of operating losses that we've always had this deficit in recent years, haven't we? Do you think that's a quick fix?
I'd say it's a start, to be honest, and I would expect anything that comes in for player sales to get into transfer kitty as well, because I believe if we can get on top, then you're in a position where you're just buying 2 or 3 quality players every year to stay on top, if that makes any sense. Whereas to get there, you need to spend a bit more money. So, looking at boys like Josh Mulligan at Dundee, big athletic boy, can play right back, centre mid, can cover every blade of grass if needed. He's got a physicality about him. Says it before, I'll say it to him blow the face. Guys like Lawrence Shanklin can come in if you sell Dessers, it immediately picks up that third striker role if you're going to improve that. Just the boys were talking about Raskin earlier on, right? Raskin's 24 now with 2 years left in his contract. I don't want Raskin to get another contract. I want him to get sold because I think he's in his peak value now. To keep him for another couple of seasons, he's going to be 26, and I think you're roughly going to get 15 million or something around about then. I think selling Raskin's the start of making that transfer kitty for 20 million to 35 million.
Curry's shaking his head.
I know he's shaking his head over. I know Raskin's got a right attitude and all the rest of it. I know he's made a great captain and all the rest of it, but I just feel as if we can be smart business. And Raskin has said in the past, Curry, that he wants to move on to a bigger league, a top 5 league. So it's inevitable that it's going to happen anyway. Do you know what I mean? On you go. I know you're disagreeing with me, Curry.
Partly, mate. First thing I would do is I would be trying to get him to renew the contract. First of all, maybe get at least another year on his contract, maybe bump up the price a wee bit for the asking price anyway. Do I agree that he'll bring in, or he should bring in a lot of money from a Rangers supporter's point of view? Aye. Obviously, put out a figure there that everybody would laugh at. I mean, I'd be wanting at least 15 million for him. That'd be the minimum I'd be looking for him. Whether he's worth that or no is another thing. But for me, one of the main things we need is a strong leader within the club. And I think Raskin could be that guy. maybe if he does stay 5, 6, even 7 year, he's at an age that he could probably last about 7 year. It'd be a long-term basis for a captain. He's proved he's already been captain. I think we played rather well under his captainship. So he's the type of player I would like to keep. But if he gets sold and the right money's offered, then it's obviously we can't say no. But Andy was saying about the 17 million loss. Majority of that 17 million loss was because we get rid of about 6 players for next to nothing. That was a board's fault for that.
I think it's become a little clearer that, as frustrating as it was, we did have to offset and offload very quickly to level the playing field a little bit for, I think, our 5-year average for the finances. So when I think PSR or final financial fair play, whatever you want to call it, I think it was to make that kind of a little bit better. We had been spending too much without any success. Our wages were more than what players from Celtic were on. We were paying people
I think that
like
was
we were
downfall, Andy. It
champions.
was more the wages than we were paying for players. I think it was more about how much we were offering players. That's why we get some players in for very little money. Obviously, players like Lawrence that came in massive wages, Matondo on massive wages, Dow, Davies, all these ones they were big wages. Now, hopefully, we can get some half decent money for a couple of players out on loan. I've not heard I've not seen anything anyway in the last few weeks about them. What's happening with them? All I know is that they've been brought back to the club, so that's all I know at the moment.
Yeah,
as you know, my mind, easy for me to say. Fucking hell. As you know, I took a step back doing the pods and that because I got to the stage where it really was affecting my mental health. I was going, I couldn't even watch a Rangers match. I was getting that angry with things that were happening, and it wasn't just on the field; it was off field as well, at board level and management level. And I was like, I can't do this anymore because I'm just going to sound like a raging nutter. And that's where it was getting. I was like, no, I'm not.
That's being polite. You're being very polite there, Curry.
Aye. All right. I was being basically an arsehole, right? To be perfectly honest with you, right? Jesus. And everything was annoying me, and I'm like, no, I need to keep away from that. It's like when you watch the news now, and you see some of the things that's happening, and you start shouting at telly like I'm not job. And you're like, no, I need to stop this. I need to take a step back to social media because it's just doing my nothing. Yeah. But, so I left all the craziness to yourselves and all the rest of the other pods and that. And I said, I even came away from all the chats and that because I said, I need to keep away from this because I'm going to end up saying something that I'm going to end up getting a chap at the door to the old bill.
Do you know what? It is
I'm
amazing.
not ready for that. I don't do that anymore. I'm a good boy now.
It is amazing how I always compare it to. Remember in E.T. where you've got the sunflower, and you know, Jesus, you know the sunflower when he's not doing.
For the first time in years, you get called fucking E.T.
I'm not calling you E.T. I'm not calling you E.T. No, I mean I'm comparing. You know, like when the sunflowers, like dying, E.T.'s dying. I compare that with Rangers and myself. If Rangers are not doing great, I'm absolutely utterly miserable. Can't almost face it. But no, I'm not comparing you. You're much more beautiful than that. You're much more beautiful than that. You're like a young James Tavernier. For everyone joining us,
there's a check in the post of 150 quid for you, mate. Right?
Oh, 150. That's gone up. Lovely.
And I want you to do me a favour. Put it towards buying a decent guide dog.
Right, so if you're all joining us, this is our special pod today on the Rangers Journal because, of course, at 1 p.m. The embargo was lifted and it was confirmed today that the 49ers Enterprises bought Rangers. A 51% stake has been purchased for approximately 75 million. So big times ahead. It has been confirmed by Sky Sports News that it's 20 million initial investment through a new share issue, which will be in 3 weeks' time. That's when that big meeting will be, the 23rd of June. The Rangers Journal will be covering this throughout the day, so make sure you do join and like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. This pod is also sponsored by Off to the Match I Go, where you can get fantastic, great Rangers memorabilia. You get 10% off with the promo code Journal10. So head to offtothematchigo.co.uk. So Scotty, this makes the weekend quite interesting now. Bank holiday, oh no, it's not bank holiday this weekend, is it? No, that was last week.
That was
last week, wasn't it? Yeah. Sometimes they're a bit different in Scotland. I live down in England, so sometimes they are a little bit off. But this sets up the weekend perfectly for you now, doesn't it, Scotty?
Oh, it definitely does, mate. It definitely does. Sets us up well, doesn't it? Sets us up well. I'll let you go over to Stuart to get your initial thoughts for Stuart. How you doing, mate?
Not bad, mate. Joe, my initial thoughts are yee-haw! Go on, Connie. He's a yee-haw.
Woo! Spring break, woo!
I see what you meant.
I'm pretty off.
You're staying right here.
Madness.
So, Bollywood 49ers fan posters on the wall and that. Aye, totally. Go team. So what are your initial thoughts? You got your Top Gun Ray-Bans on. You are feeling very American. You got a pint of, I imagine, Bud there. How are you doing, mate?
I know it looks like Bud Light, but it's actually a pint of Strang Bang. But let's kid on, it's Bud Light just for the sake of this, right? Bud Light. I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled. It's kind of a long time coming, and there's been so many like false dawns for us over the last maybe 10, 15 years. And see, one this credible, you like it can't no work out, surely. Do you know what I mean? Like there was
100%.
But yeah, what can they do?
Do you know what? It sets up the weekend perfectly, because this is what I've been saying. I know there have been some people that are saying, right, you know, you got to be cautious. You don't know what's going to happen. End of the day, this is a massive sporting enterprise that have vested interests in many sporting clubs. They want to see whatever sporting club that they've just put £75 million in for the shares to get 51% of the club. So they will want to see this club doing well. The only way that this club can make money and do well is by winning shiny things and waving them in our face. That will be the end game. That will be what they want to do. Doesn't mean it'll be easy. Doesn't mean it'll be overnight either. But this is the end game. And the words from Andrew Kavanagh from the 49ers Enterprises have just been positive today.
Aye, Big Cav spoke well so far. Again, it's just all positivity. I was listening earlier on before I kind of actually go on, and the bit about Curry was talking about the Man U takeover, and not to be negative or anything like that, but you know, I had a wee thought of that myself as well. You don't want to lose any of the kind of Rangers identity and the kind of old school mentality, which maybe there's a bit of a come and go. Maybe there's a happy medium somewhere that we've got to move with the times to kind of reattain success. But see, as long as this kind of goes through and we don't lose who we are, man, it's just great, mate. Great feeling.
Well, that's it. According to them, you know, it is all about keeping tradition, and you know, obviously, Scott yourself, you spoke with Matt Maiocco a while back. You know, right when this was kind of breaking, you got a real good insight into Parag Marathe and how tradition's important. So, guys, if you've not seen that interview, do head over to YouTube. It is one of the top Rangers Journal videos there. Scott, how do you see? You know, obviously you've heard about how Parag is with Leeds and how he gets excited watching the telly screaming. How do you think he's going to be with the officials 3 games in when he's in the stand?
Well, funnily enough, when I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, my phone had a message on the Journal's Instagram, and it was Matt Maiocco, and it was him that gave us the inside scoop saying it's getting announced today. And I was right into Dino, and I was like, "You're on a news flash this morning, aren't you? Get it out here. That we've got a source." And that's who our source was. Matt Maiocco's been absolutely top with us, absolutely brilliant. He spoke about Parag Marathe as being a passionate guy. He's passionate about Leeds. I'm not sure if he really is about football, but if he sees one of them goal things going in, the guy's going to celebrate, isn't he? Let's be honest about it. Like, he could be a top football fan for all we know, but he's probably just celebrating his business, doing really, really well for itself. And I'm all for that. They've not got a hard job ahead of them. All they need to do is get us on tap and keep us there. Once that's done, it's fairly sustainable. That's where they're going to make their money, in my opinion. So as long as they do that and we get them big shiny silver things in the trophy cabinet, we'll be fine.
Do you know what I have to say? There's an article that has just appeared. I won't say from who, but I'm just going to say the article headline: "Stateside control guarantees sustainability in second place for Sevco." So I think you can imagine who that is. Kerrydale is going to have. It's going to be an absolute on fire tonight with all these comments about fakeovers, and there's actually people out there right now still believing that this isn't happening.
I could believe it.
Unbelievable. Well, I've got to head off, guys. It's been absolutely fantastic, and it's just such an exciting day. The sun is shining. I'm going to try and have a wee pint myself in a minute to celebrate. But thank you, guys, and a pleasure. I'm going to hand over to Scotty now, who's going to take the reins and talk about Tav's testimonial for Curry.
Don't you end after that sash I'm wearing, Andrew?
It's not a sash. It's my arm is still fractured. There we go.
Andrew, you get yourself a hot dog or a Bud Light, mate.
I've got to go down Costco. I'll get a £1.50 hot dog. Proper. I'll get the Costco card out.
Andy, what Pornhub station were you watching?
I saw an inside scoop about the 49ers Enterprises taking over Rangers. It got me excited. Right. There we go. So I ripped the end off it. Anyway, that's enough for me. I'm going before I get myself in trouble here. Guys, see you later.
I mean, open up one of your restaurants. Move. Beat up. See you later, Andy.
See you guys. Cheers.
Right, lads, it's the original Idiot Club that's left. Dino's coming on.
Who is? Aye.
Dino's coming in.
It's only downhill again for here.
What's that?
It's only downhill for here, mate.
Oh, tell us about it. So,
the last time we three were together, the night ended pretty badly for all involved, I think.
Aye, but for Dino, aye.
Oh,
I left early. That was the tour of Ibrox last time I seen you, mate.
Aye. Oh, aye, right. I remember now.
That was the day that I told you something, Scotty.
What's that?
That was the day I told you something.
Told me a lot of things that day, mate.
My prediction and what I get told.
What was it? What?
Dino.
About Takeover. I can't remember, Corey. The highlight of my day was you and Oswald. Telling them the highlight of my day was you and Oswald telling the regulars to send a canary into your cubicle. Anyway, Dino, how are you, pal?
On top of the world, mate. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely fine. So give me your initial thoughts on the Takeover. We'll go for that.
Absolute game changer.
So.
Absolute game changer. The most exciting news to come out of Ibrox in 10 years, as far as I'm concerned. It really is a massive milestone for our great institution.
Oh, that's fair, mate. That's fair. Apparently, you stole your teeth for Gaza.
First I heard that.
You've got a request, give us a USA.
USA, USA.
Ah, fair enough.
Careful, you wish for it.
So, were you happy enough with the statement, no, Dino? The way it was done?
Aye, I've loved how it's been done, every stage. It's just alien to us because that's how a proper football club is run.
Aye, definitely, mate, definitely. Gary, I'm going to come back to you, mate. What do you want to see? I've not spoken to you in ages on a pod. What do you want to see in the summer in terms of how do we get a winning team in the park?
Well, as I said, mate, first thing we need to do is get rid of the dross. That's the first thing we need to do. We need to get the ready players that are have proven to the fans that they're just no good enough. Who we bring in, I really don't know, mate, what type of players are names of players that we could bring in that's going to suit a new manager. It's a new concept. It's the whole experience now that we need to go through is going to be totally different from what we've had for the last probably decade. So all I'm hoping for is that when they come in, they get the business done nice and quick, and then get it, whatever policy, what we're doing, shown on the pitch, and then hopefully it'll be successful. I mean, see, the only thing I want now is 100% concentration on domestic football. I'm sorry, but bollocks to Europe. I don't care about Europe now. I said that about last year, I know. Is it good to get into the later stages? Aye. Obviously, they'll be wanting it because of the money. But right now, what the fans need is success at domestic level. I don't know what the other guys are thinking about that.
Stu, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of first off the bat. That's the kind of bread and butter for what everybody kind of wants from this, what everybody wants to see a Rangers team organisation doing, regardless of the ownership or board structure and stuff like that. So that's a kind of given. I actually had this in my back pocket just before Andrew left. He made a point. What do you think the new consortium and ownership will think of the refereeing decisions and the VAR performance? Now, to be honest, I've been saying for a while, it's embarrassing. I know we're talking about Rangers, but it's embarrassing to all Scottish football as a brand, as a kind of a thing that Rangers are part of, right? That'll be something the SFA need to clear right up, because if they've now got guys of that level, of that wealth, of that professionalism coming in to be getting involved in Scottish football, can he be putting decisions, like making the decisions they're making and let them stand? Our goal against Hibs, abysmal, stuff like that. And you've got managers throughout the season, throughout the leagues, they say the same things. They can't believe the bad decisions. So I think if there's ever going to be a rocket up the backside of the SFA to fix the abysmal officiating, even with the technology they've got now, they can't even use it right. This has got to be it, surely. You've got real proper guys who manage real proper football teams, real proper football in America, American football and organisations involved here now. So we can't be showing ourselves up with poor refereeing and poor officiating.
No,
so the rest of Scottish football can thank us for that as well, by the way, when it gets fixed.
How do we tackle that, Stu? What's the best way of tackling it?
Yeah, well, do you know this? See if you ever have had a situation where somebody makes a statement with nothing to back up. That was it right there, right? But I mean, what you suppose you could do is you could that consortium obviously involved in Leeds, and I dare say that the English Premier League use VAR to its potential a lot more than we do. So maybe if it's a case, they could be a crossover training exercise between officials they know down there, the Scottish ones, and maybe we can learn from that. I guess maybe, hopefully, something.
There needs to be a structure put in place.
That's it.
There's consequences to bad decisions for all refereeing and VAR officials that come in, because it was the likes of Walsh that it happened against Hibs, and then he was given a following game right away. That needs to stop. If a referee makes a major error, or someone in VAR makes a VAR error, there need to be consequences to what they do. They need to either have a time-served ban, or they need to be removed. It was the same as, I can't remember the guy's name, that referee that get bumped because a decision he made against that mob. Was it Muir? Was it Muir, I think his name was?
Was that the one that they get bumped down to the Championship for a period of time?
2
I
games.
get bumped out of refereeing.
All right.
So that's the type of pressure that we need to put on board. And to be pretty blunt, the board then that was in place and the management team pussyfooting about, try to be nice. We need to stop all this, all we want to be your pal carry on. They need to start calling things out. Big Bomber just came out with it. And he did right. Whether I think it's right or no is another thing. I'm a Rangers fan. Of course I'm going to agree with Bomber. But I don't It's not the fact that it could be or it is classed as corruption. It's the standard of ineptness that is allowed to happen time and time again across every team. And as Scotty said, it's not just us that are saying it, it's other clubs that are saying it. But the thing is, as soon as Rangers say something against it, all the other clubs to be shite it. Because it's Rangers. Oh, we're not going to help
Exactly.
Rangers.
No.
Well, I mean, I
Actually,
tell you what, if you're turned into a referee thing again, because it's a great day and everything like that. I just mean that hopefully now that the level of ownership, I mean, the prestigious kind of the owners of Rangers right now, hopefully that's an incentive for the SFA to pull their socks up and do something about it, because it's been widely recognised it's not been good enough since we made the change to VAR. But yes, anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I come in on that, guys? Basically, kind of going on what you say, but you see all this rubbish about not saying anything because they'll get in trouble. What are they going to do? Put us in statement jail? Do you know what I mean? Take the fine, because at the end of the day, that fine is actually worth the risk, because the actual advantages that that's going to make us going forward will pay dividends tenfold. So call them out for exactly what they are.
We should
Take
actually have it worked into our budget every year, just for fines, because it happens anyway. So we should factor that into.
Yeah, and see all this stuff about trying to keep them happy and all the rest. Get that crap in the bin. Treat them with the same level of disdain that they treat us. Simple as that.
Well said, Dino. Let them tell me.
No one likes us, we don't care. Does anybody else get anything else to add? Anybody else get anything else they want to add?
How many players, Scotty, how many players do we need to bring in? Realistically, right? Say we've got the 20 million there. That's for players. Plus whatever we can sell. So maybe say another maybe 10, 15 million, right? So that gives us 35 million, right? Realistically, where do we need to strengthen? First and foremost, and how many players do you want to come in?
8, I would say.
Is that minimum?
8. Aye, minimum, aye. I would say you've got some decent players there, but I think you need to... Now's the time to add real quality. Yeah. Need a goalkeeper, for sure. We need 2 centre-backs at least. You need 2 centre mids, and you need 2 strikers. Right, we need a whole new spine. We need to learn to stop conceding stupid goals and getting 2-0 down.
That's if we sell Dessers or Danilo.
And we need a striker that can put the ball in the net at R&D Park, because we've not got that. Let's be honest, Curry. I know Dessers is this and he's available and he's scored 25 goals and whatever else, but he misses too many chances.
I can't get through another season with Dessers. I couldn't, mate. I'm going to end up with new telly.
Many tellies you went through this season, sorry.
Well, I've went through about 128 for fuck's sake tabs. I think I went through 4 laptops, 2 tablets, a PC,
a car.
4 tellies.
A car and all. Did you not get through a car?
And a car, aye.
Curry's the only person that's a regular in the telly since you're in, Curry.
What's happening with your hair, by the way? You get through a midlife crisis.
Who?
You.
Me?
Aye.
How? What's up with my hair?
You've been scratching your hair.
my 5 head.
Look, you're looking spiffing.
Curry, take your hat off.
No chance.
Aye, shut up, you. By the way, I can't believe you just try to come at me with that.
Is that the best of your fish? Listen, I'm on X all the time with that mob, and that's the best you can come out with. Come on, you can do better than that, big man. I know you.
I know, mate. Right.
I have missed you, mate, honestly.
It's me and you.
Right, Stu, what about you? How many players do we need?
I think you're probably close to the money with that, because see when you get starting into double figures, you could have the best players in the world, it's hard to bed them in, so we don't go overboard. So see if you're talking about 8, we need 2 centre backs, we need a goalie, We need maybe a couple in the midfield, maybe pace out wide, and we need a more reliable, consistent, clinical finisher. Maybe if we kept Dessers, to supplement maybe a primary striker, then aye. But when you start getting beyond that, you turn into that Michael Beale season when just too many new faces and it just didn't work. So I think you're probably on the money with that, Scott.
He's a Shankland type player.
Hold on, gents. A special guest to join us. We've got Matt Maiocco, who's joined us live from America. He gave us the news this morning. The announcement was due. Matt, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Yeah, you got me right on. I was waiting for about 2 seconds.
I need to behave myself now.
Yeah, big news, right?
Oh, massive news, massive news. The whole Rangers support is absolutely ecstatic this afternoon.
Yeah. I'll ask you some questions. Why is this such a big deal there? Why is this news being greeted so favorably?
I'm going to pass that question to Curry. I think he's the best one to answer that. That's okay.
Hi there, Matt. Nice to meet you, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good stuff.
Hope you guys are doing well.
Well, a lot better now. I would say Matt is because of where we've been throughout our history. We've always been a successful club, and through circumstances not due from the fans but previous owners that crucified the club, and it's been a steady build up from then. And because of certain people that's been brought in to run the club, we've not got to the heights where we think they should be. And I think we got to the stage, I think probably from last season to the beginning of this season, that we needed something better. And we knew we needed something better. And we knew the board that we had just now were not going to do it. So when we heard the news of a takeover, it was like, let's hope that this is going to happen. And then through sources like yourself and other people about the 49 consortium coming in, it gave us a bit of hope that they could take us to the standards that we expect at our club.
Mm-hmm.
There's many clubs around the world that are like Rangers, but there isn't another Rangers in this world and the type of support that we have. They may think they are, but they're not. It's a totally different ethos at Rangers. The way the founding fathers started the club off and what ethos that they had for the club and how they wanted it to be run and who it was run for. And I think this is hopefully by the statement that the Padraig had made has matched what we want. So hopefully it's going to be a success for everybody. But could I switch it around, Matt, if you don't mind? Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
What do you think it brings to them? What would you think is it the biggest thing? Was it because Rangers were in so much trouble that they thought that it could be a good investment? Or was it something else? Do you think that they looked a lot at the history of the club as well? Or do you not think it went that deep?
Yeah, I think that, they've tried to kind of diversify their investments, and you know about Leeds United, and I think that has been successful. They returned to the Premier League this year, and so I think they've kind of found this sweet spot of finding franchises that have a history and a storied past and a passionate fan base, but these teams that are kind of, whether they've been mismanaged, underperformed, whatever, these teams, these football clubs that have a lot of potential that just hasn't been realized. And I think at the time they took over Leeds, it's similar to where Rangers are right now. And, this Jed York, the CEO of the 49ers, Prague Marathe, who's been, one of the big financial guys. And I don't know, frankly, I don't know how Prague Marathe finds enough time in the day to do all the things that he does. But he's a bundle of energy, and he's somebody that I have watched a Leeds game with, not in person, not at the stadium, but on TV during a watch party, and he gets into it. And so as what is he, the vice chair, I believe is his title, there with Rangers. He's very passionate about it. And again, I just don't know how he has enough time to do all the things he does, but he does. But I think that what they see is twofold. The financial possibilities that this holds for them. They're business people. They wouldn't be making this kind of investment unless they saw a huge potential for growth, but also the ability to put their mark on the football club, and through business and through wise decision making, have that organization rise. And I know where they are in the standings, but 17 points behind Celtic, 17 points ahead of Hibernian. The question is, in your minds, how realistic is it, and what is a realistic time frame for this new 49ers Enterprises to have an impact and challenge Celtic and eventually maybe overtake them? What is realistic right now? You guys know the background and where these organizations are. Well, what's the expectation?
Dino, I'm going to come to you with that one, mate.
Scotty, can I just interrupt for 2 seconds? What's more important, mate, is we want to find out is when you're coming over to Ibrox, so me and the lads can show you a good night out.
On your
understand the
word. Right, Dean, Joy, answer your question.
The demands at this club is you need to be successful from the first moment. The expectations for the season ahead is to close the gap at least significantly to Celtic with some domestic silverware. I would say the hypothetically worst case scenario for me is winning the Scottish Cup and the League Cup and just finishing second to Celtic. That's going to be night and day difference to what we've been subjected to for the last few years. And although we would all want Rangers to actually win the league, but that would be a massive step in the right direction to then go and do probably the clean sweep the following season. However, we all expect Rangers to win from day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, I think you're in good hands there. I mean, they're they saw an opportunity. They certainly didn't make this investment to fail. There's no question about it. And as you well know, a lot of times a change, changes are needed, and it sounds like certainly a change was needed there. So they have had success in a lot of different ventures, and I think that they will put in the resources and try to match those expectations or exceed those expectations. So I think it's an exciting time for them and their investment arm, but also I think what you'll see, and I don't know how often Prague Marathe will be there, but I think you'll be able to kind of sense the passion that he has for it. I mean, through this process, I'm sure there's been few bigger fans than Prague Marathe, and you'll see it how he reacts and how passionate he is. Now, obviously, they're coming into this, they don't have the history of all the people there as far as the fan base and generational fandom, if you will. of Rangers, but I think, you know, my guess is that Rangers is in pretty good hands as far as the management of it and the ability to make wise, reasoned, informed decisions on not only the off the field stuff, the business side of it, but also what happens on the field.
Yeah, definitely. Stuart, are you wanting to come in?
It was just a kind of thought I had just as Dean was talking there, and I've definitely been in Dean's position where we've had the previous takeovers where you think, right, first year, strong second in the 2 cups as a minimum, just while they're building the team. If you look at, and maybe we shouldn't be comparing this takeover to Leeds takeover, but inevitably it happens because it's a very similar type position Leeds were in to Rangers are in, trying to kind of recover, rebuild that kind of sleeping giant. But when you think about the infrastructure, the strategy teams, the planning kind of boards that the consortium have got, it was probably a harder job with Leeds because Leeds were competing against multiple different teams for their inevitable prize. Whereas in Scotland, it's really only a 2-horse race. So we're only really trying to beat Celtic. And I just don't know maybe if I'm getting too caught up in it all, but do you think maybe it's unrealistic, given what they've already done with Leeds in a much harder league? Like the Championship's a terrible league to get promoted from. It's tough. It's a brutal league. Do you think it would, with what they've done so far and the template they've got, and they've tried it once and they've already attained success, do you think they could do it in their first year?
Is it real? Is it you're saying to take over Celtic in the first year?
Yeah, just given that I feel like they've probably done a harder job what they did with Leeds, because it really up here is a 2-horse race.
Yeah, you know what? I just don't know enough about the structures of those teams and where, you know, is there, let me ask you this, is there right now an obvious significant gap in talent between those teams? Is it obvious to everybody that Rangers can't compete at that level right now? And if it is, I mean, you know, they'll have to make wise strategic decisions on stocking the roster with better players. And so, you know, I just saw, by the way, I just saw a question flash across the board about how this is being viewed in America. Yeah, there it is right there. I don't get the sense that it really hasn't been talked about too much here about the 49ers involvement. Now, kind of an interesting thing, early in the offseason, the football offseason, the 49ers made some cost-cutting moves. There's a salary cap in American football in the NFL, and the 49ers made some moves. And when this news about 49ers involvement in Rangers kind of started filtering out there, a lot of people were like, well, they're cutting costs. Their involvement in Rangers and Leeds is having an impact on what they're spending on the football team, the American football team. And I did ask Jed York that question. He said, you know, the finances are completely different. There's nothing, there's no carryover in, you know, the amount of money they have here compared to the money that they're spending here, and so on and so forth. Now, since I asked those questions, they signed 3 of their top players to massive contracts. So basically in the snap of a finger, they went from being one of the lower spending teams in the NFL this offseason to, again, one of the higher spending teams. So, you know, they've shown over the past 5 years or more that they're willing to spend as much, or in many cases more, than any other team in the league to kind of capitalize on where they see an advantage. And the advantage for them on the American football side was they had some really good players, and they were committed to holding on to those players, and in some cases going out and getting other players. So, I mean, they'll what to me, I'm speaking from a little bit of ignorance about how it all works, but it'll be interesting to see, and you guys can fill in the blanks here, if there's any carryover, if there's going to be any, player exchanges, or a player that Leeds has going to Rangers and vice versa. Is that something that has been talked about there? Is that even a possibility?
Ryan, I'll come to you about one, mate.
Sorry, I missed that one. There, say again, sorry.
Is there potential to be any kind of player exchanges between Leeds and Rangers? Is there the possibility of some sort of partnership in a way that can help out both sides?
Yeah, we've seen it before with other clubs that have got kind of multiple clubs within the one group. We've seen it most recently with Chelsea. They've got a partnership with a French team called Strasbourg, where players have went back and forth. Manchester City have done it with varying success as well, where they've got other clubs throughout the world. So definitely, and I think the fact that there's a possibility that the cultures aren't that far different between the Scots and the English, that it would be easier for young English talent to possibly come up the road and maybe have an opportunity to play in the Scottish leagues. There's no difficulty with anything like visas or anything like that would have if young English talent went abroad. So there's definitely a possibility of that, and I think there's probably a sense of money as well, that players, if Leeds unearth a young talent and they're willing to take a gamble on it and spend some money, that they could basically hire them. They see him as a future Leeds player, but send them up to Rangers for a year on development. I think we need to be careful that Rangers don't become a feeding team to Leeds. I think we definitely don't want that. Yeah. We want Rangers obviously to stay true to our own and be independent, but if there's an opportunity, certainly in the short term, to work together to bring Rangers back up to where they should be, I wouldn't be against it. But I think both clubs in the long term need to have their own structure to do it. But there will be, I dare say, there will be financial benefits to both clubs doing it. So why not?
Yeah. And I see the question there. If I think that the 49ers group will look to broaden Rangers to an American audience, I do. That Leeds United has not played, so 49ers play at Levi Stadium in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they do have some international matches here. Sometimes during this, it depends on what time of year, summer months or whenever. Leeds hasn't yet come over, but I think there's always that possibility. So, whether Rangers will play here at some point in the future remains to be seen. But, I think just like the 49ers have tried to market internationally and grow their audience to a worldwide base, there are certainly opportunities in America for the 49ers to promote Leeds and to promote Rangers. And I think, it's my understanding, Rangers already has, a huge fan base globally and certainly in the United States. So they'll certainly be, I would guess they would certainly be marketing and have fan types of experiences, probably watch parties in the United States, like organized outings where fans can get together and kind of share their passion for Rangers. So yes, I would totally expect that to happen.
Matt, there's one question I was looking to ask you as well, mate. We're desperate as far as a football club's concerned to bring successful times back to Rangers, and I think we've only won one league out of the last 14 or 15. I've actually lost track of it. It's that bad. We urgently need a successful football team back in the park domestically, and we need to basically take the torch back from our rivals and be the most successful team in the country again. And it's urgent. I'm well aware that Leeds will be looking, the 49ers will be coming over here, and they're coming to make money. And I don't think we need to step away from that. They're coming to make good of the investment that they've got here. Are they aware, though, that the priority has to be on the park, and we do need to turn this round quickly on the park? Investment on the stadium and investment in creating a campus at Ibrox, for me comes secondary, and I think it's important that, you know, the talk of stadium expansion, there's talk of hotels being built on site, that all these things are pointless if we don't have a successful football team in the park. And the new investors need to realise that we need to get on the ground and we need to get this quickly. We're literally days away from a Champions League qualifier, which is literally millions and millions of pounds at stake, and we need to prioritise that. It's nice having a nice car park outside the stadium, and it's great that we're all getting nice hot dogs and nice pies at half times. That doesn't matter if Rangers aren't successful in the park, because the stands will be empty. Do the guys understand that, do you think?
Well, I think that they believe in a lot of ways it goes hand in hand, where if you're creating, you know, more revenue, if you're making it a better fan experience, that helps the team. You know, there's a trickle down where, you know, if you're bringing in more revenue and you're making good on your investment, you have more money to invest in the football team. So, I mean, there's no question they see a huge opportunity to make this a financially wise investment. If they saw this as, hey, let's go there and win championships and lose a lot of money, no, they're not. That's not what they're about. But what they see is an opportunity to satisfy both sides. It's make it a better fan experience, generate more revenue, make wise business decisions, and also make wise business decisions when it comes to player acquisition and putting together a competitive team. So, yeah, I think they're probably, you know, going to use many of, if not all of the, you know, all the lessons that they've learned through Leeds. You know, they were Premier League. They dropped down, I think, for 2 seasons last year. They just narrowly missed out on the promotion. This year they got it. And so, you know, I think that they feel like, you know, they found a formula that works for them. But there's no question, you know, they will look at the fan experience. They believe that that's a big part of it. And if you can create that kind of loyalty and know in the fans, it sounds like, I mean, Rangers has no issue with fan loyalty, but if the fans feel like they're being rewarded by ownership and management looking out for them and making sure that their game day experience is one that is enjoyable, you know, that's something that they're going to do. Now, we all realize that a game day experience is a heck of a lot more enjoyable, regardless of all the other amenities that the fans have. It's a lot more enjoyable if your team wins. So ultimately, that's the bottom line.
Brilliant, mate. Listen, I just want to say thank you for your contribution and giving your time up on behalf of the channel. Thoroughly believe this will happen, and if you can let your contacts next time you're speaking to Parag and the guys, if you build it, we will come. You know, we will thoroughly get behind this. We're really looking forward to this. Has been a long time coming. We've had so many bad years. There's a generation of Rangers fans that don't know what it's like for Rangers to win, and we're thoroughly behind this. I'm going to head off and get back on and get my day finished at work here, all right? But catch up with the rest of you guys later. Thanks, Mark. All the best.
All right, Ryan. Okay, nice.
Cheers.
Nice
Take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye. And I do have to leave as well. I just wanted to pop in. I know you guys have been super good to me and very kind in asking for my opinions and any insights I have. And I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot of insights, but yeah, it was kind of funny when you know, I reached out and to some people I know. Well, one person very high up and said that he didn't think anything was going to be happening, and then last night in the, you know, actually I missed a call earlier in the day, but found out yesterday that stuff was going to be happening, and I know it's a big day there, and so I wish you guys all the best, and I can assure you that from America I'll be following Rangers and seeing how you guys are doing. So again,
Matt,
thanks for having me.
Matt, could you quickly take one more question from
Okay,
me?
sure. One more question.
Thank you.
It's actually in relation to the previous question about over in America and things like that. Is just a quick one. Do you think in the not so distant future they would look to organise something like a friendly or a a pre-season sort of camp or something for the Rangers fans over in America to go and attend?
Yeah, and I don't know why it hasn't happened with Leeds. I know that there's just been scheduling conflicts. I think Leeds is maybe going over to Germany soon, and so I think they really don't want to force the issue. Whether if it makes sense, I'm sure they would. I just don't know all the logistics that goes on with that. But I know that there would be a hunger for that from Rangers fans, but I just don't know. I mean, it's something that they would certainly like, but I don't think that they're going to force the issue if the people who run the football side over there have other ideas, or this would benefit the team more if we did this. So I can't answer that question other than there's no reason for them not to want to bring the team over here.
Yeah, and just kind of all quickly on that, like you were saying about Leeds, like ideally it would be great to have Rangers and Leeds at like some pre-season tournament in the States next year. Because obviously we've got fans all around the world and especially in the States, so it would be good for the fans to go and experience something like that. But thank you very much for answering the question, and it's been good to chat with you.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And best of luck with everything.
Matt, thank you for coming on. You're an absolute gentleman.
No problem at all. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. It's been fun talking to you in the lead up to this, and to see that everything came about in a pretty timely fashion. So thanks so much, and congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Well, there's a wee bit of insight from Matt Maiocco. What did you think of that, Dean? Just quickly, I know you need to go.
Absolutely brilliant. I could sit and listen to him all day talk about it, and he's so well grounded in his answers, isn't he? So that's what makes it more intriguing, and just to listen to him and how endearing he actually comes across. So yeah, I mean, what a day for our football club. Absolutely brilliant. But
right, I'll let you get going, mate. I know you've got graft to get back to.
Yeah. See you later on, guys.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Well, Andrew, I don't know if you caught any of that there, but we had Matt Maiocco on, obviously, and he's gave us further reassurances about the takeover. What do you think?
That's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Matt's obviously a good friend of Parag Maratha, who's going to be vice chairman of Rangers, the kind of main man behind the 49ers Enterprises. It's no better than the horse's mouth itself, is it? Absolutely fantastic. I was quite surprised at how surprised he was about the reaction to the announcement, obviously. I think it's obviously because we've been so starved of any sort of success or any good news really in recent years, and it is just a phenomenal day. And you and Matt are getting quite pally. Is he going to come? Is he going to come over and go down the pub with you later?
Well, actually, did you see Curry? Curry tried to ask him that.
Bless him. I don't think he could understand the word he said.
No, I know. You need to come over to Glasgow and we'll get a night out sorted. And he was like, huh? What?
Ended up in Diamond Dolls at 2 a.m. That's just what we need to do, innit?
and Curry was like, I need to go, I need to get a door, and Ryan was like, is that your translator?
What's that? Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant.
Oh,
that was tremendous. Brilliant. That was tremendous. I think we've covered the takeover thing really, really well. For start to finish. We've had Rocco Quinn with the Leeds podder on. We've had Matt on twice, 3 times now. It's just absolutely tremendous the help we've had off all these guys, and it's, if you're watching on Twitter, please bounce over to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe to the podcast. I'm 5 away from getting another 100 subscribers, so please jump over and do that for me. We've tried to cover these at every single angle we possibly can here at Rangers Journal, and we're going to continue to do that in the next week. About the manager, we'll speak about the manager quickly, Andrew. I know you've only got 10-15 minutes, but
no probs.
When do you think we can expect an announcement?
Well, I think with the whole managerial situation, when you do read a lot of the stories, like, we've been talking, like in groups and stuff, nobody actually really knows anything. Whenever you see an article, there's never any substance in it, never anything definite. It's all been kept very quiet and very in-house. It feels at the minute it's either one or two things. One, everything does seem to point towards Ancelotti. I think it's 99%. From what it sounds like, sure. However, it sounds like for the Rangers side of things, we still haven't made anything official yet. I think that Ancelotti is the front runner. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of the kind of pressure from, I guess you'd call it his side. It looks like it's coming from Brazil, but it's not. It's, I think they just want this deal done. I think Ancelotti desperately wants it. Because I think it is a good club to. No, I don't want to use the words to start with, because it's a cauldron. It's a goldfish bowl. You have to win every week. But being an Ancelotti, I'm sure that he wants to be a winner and wants to be somewhere where he can win. You've got that kind of guaranteed European football. I think it's a good start. Obviously, I think there was a link between Deportivo, which I think are in the Championship now, essentially, aren't they? They're not the team they used to be. So I wouldn't say that was as much of an attractive prospect as coming to Ibrox. But on the flip side of that, sunny Spain will govern, so I think that can also play a part as well. It's interesting. Obviously, the other names that have been kind of fired into the mix really have come out the blue. We haven't seen, again, anything official. Rangers will be creating a dossier of candidates. Now, it sounds very much like Ancelotti has probably been one of the better interviewees. He's had 2 rounds of talks. I think that seems to be the consistent thing that we've heard, 2 rounds of talks. But I think with the way that the football world can be, I think that they're just making sure that they are going, interviewing everybody that they can and making sure that they are getting someone that aligns with what they want to do. I'm not saying that Ancelotti isn't that guy, but also if Ancelotti does leave, if he is very good and ends up getting touted somewhere halfway through the season, we need to be able to turn to a dossier, much like we did with Gio, because I think at that point Ross Wilson did have a dossier put together for that kind of inevitability when Gerrard would leave, so we could kind of have a streamlined thing in place. So from what STV said earlier, they reckoned early next week, but there's nothing concrete in that. I did think personally the takeover would be announced first. It just feels a better, more official way of going about things. Yeah. Get that, then who's employing who. But hopefully next week. It's June at the weekend, so we are playing in June. We've got Champions League qualifiers in 20 odd days. We do need to have a manager in place.
Aye, definitely. I think Ancelotti's looking like a standout now, and I think we just need to get behind it. I think we've all got our concerns, and quite rightly so. We've been stung in the last 2-3 years with managerial appointments since Gerrard left, and I think it's time to look forward now. And I'm getting a wee bit more excited about it because it's a similar type appointment to what Gerrard is, Gerrard was, and I think we're in a similar position, not as bad to when Gerrard came in. You just look, it's all on the stars in it. We drew 5 each on our last game before Gerrard came in with Hibs. We drew 2 each in the last day of the season there. We're appointing a similar type of manager who's got his own ideas. He's worked with arguably one of the best managers in the world. Let's be honest with us, his dad. Who else do you want to end the phone apart from your dad for some advice on anything, you know what I mean?
Correct.
Well, quickly, just before we wrap up, I know we've only got a couple more minutes of your time, Andrew, so I'm going to start closing the show. So if anybody wants to get a couple of questions in, I think we've covered the takeover really, really well today. I just want to thank all the team for coming in and contributing. So we've got us in for Paul. Would we try swapping Badrami for Doig? Andrew, I'll go to you with that one first. What's your opinion on that as a potential deal?
Do you know, it's a difficult one. obviously Josh Doig, decent player. Bajrami seems to have a bit more of a higher ceiling, but we haven't seen it. We really haven't seen it at all. And I think one of the big problems is now that he's I think he's checked out mentally. I don't think he wants to be here. I think when it comes to that point, you've got to move on. However, took a fine chunk of money to bring him in. Again, he might just be somebody that's a bit more suited to kind of European football. It does happen sometimes. Josh Doig, it's an interesting one because I think he would be somebody that might not be somebody that starts every week, but I think somebody that could be quite valuable in that position. I'm trying to think of a comparison here, really, but I can't really think of one at the minute, like directly. But I think Bajrami, at the minute, I'd rather Doig than Bajrami, for sure. Definitely.
Aye, fair enough. I think personally, maybe £1 million for Bajrami plus Doig. I think it's a fair enough deal.
Oh, plus Doig, okay, yeah.
Aye, plus Doig, it's a fair enough deal. Jock, how you doing? We're just about to finish up for the afternoon, mate. Obviously, we've just a question in there from Paul asking about would we take. I think we might have lost Jock.
So that's a good mugshot there as well. That's the picture you have on the side of the milk carton.
Oh, he's there. He's there. Jock, what's your thoughts on the whole Mark Maiocco thing?
Mark Maiocco?
Aye.
Gentlemen, he came on there, he's led us through this whole process, hasn't he? He's been there and he's gave us great insight, and everything he said, seems to be quite credible, and yeah, top guy. Obviously came through for us this morning, as we all know. But yeah, I just hope Curry does take him out in a night in Glasgow, that's for sure.
That was something else. It was something else. Just on that last question there, just before we quickly wrap up on Josh Doig for Bajrami, was Josh Doig a deal you would like to see getting done at left back? Considering I would like to see Ridvan getting pointed this summer. I think it's a transfer that needs to happen. We've been delaying this. We've been delaying the inevitable for far too long now with Ridvan. There's going to be a gap. Jeff Day needs a wee bit of work. How do you feel about Josh Doig potentially coming in?
Take him in a heartbeat. I thought it was somebody that we missed. We missed the trick at the time. I thought we should have took him from Hibs. But I think obviously the money would have been too much because you know what it's like dealing with other Scottish clubs. They always seem to put like a Rangers tax on it. So if he's the sort of calibre player we're looking to bring in and bolster up the coefficient, for the homegrown players. That's an expensive motor Curry, I'll tell you. Aye, exactly like you say, Ridvan. I think he's been here. It's just never worked out. Too many injuries. Time to move on. If Turkey's a destination, which has been sort of what we've been really waiting on, or it's been the one that's always been in the background, was Galatasaray or Besiktas were the two. Send them on. Get somebody in that's got a proven record. And can certainly do a job in the league because he's already done it in the league, hasn't he?
Aye, definitely, mate, definitely. Stu, what did you take? What's your take on Mark Maiocco there, really quickly? Did they give you any reassurances?
Not really. Not really. I just wasn't on long enough, and we ended up the chat kind of went a different direction. I was kind of asking him because it was a harder job with Leeds. We thought because the template's there, they've done it once already, and it's only one team that Rangers have got to compete with once the takeover's finally through, and we've signed our signs that we're going to make. Do you think we could overtake them in the first season? That was what I was kind of like the chat about, but the kind of chat moved on, so I didn't want to drag it back. But he sounds very credible, very in the know, and everything like that. It was nice to talk to him. He seems well versed as well.
Aye, definitely. Right, gentlemen, I think that's us. We're going to wrap up for the day, so I want to thank you all for coming on and contributing and getting us through it. It's absolutely tremendous work every single one of you. First, Andrew, I'll come to you first. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah,
no problem.
This is the revolution is here now. This is our Graham Souness revolution moment for all these young fans that haven't really experienced this. All these older guys that would have seen that Graham Souness and lived through that era. This is their time now.
Aye, definitely. Andrew?
I think Jock's on his goals right there. But, brilliant. No, it's been a great day, and it's going to be a fantastic weekend. We're all just going to have big smiles on our faces now. Changes coming. It's not going to be 250 million, spend on players. It's not going to be anything silly and ridiculous. We'll have stable financial backing. We will have just a better outlook. We'll be able to do things that we haven't been able to do before, when it comes to the brands, they talk about the stadium footprint, everything in general. We are going to be able to compete and hopefully take ourselves to the next level and hopefully Champions League. But no, thank you, Scotty, for putting this all together and bringing your pal Matt on.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for coming on again, Andrew. Jock, thanks for joining us again, mate.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's good to get on and just get this feel-good buzz vibe out my system.
Good stuff. And Stu, thanks for coming back on, mate.
Pleasure to be here momentarily.
Right, everybody, if you've not done it yet, please like and subscribe to the Rangers Journal channel. If you're watching on our platform, bounce over to our YouTube page and smash the subscribe button. When the managers confirm next week, we will be back live yet again. Next week, I'm hoping to get a tactics pod out on how to beat a low block. I've got a Coppin report episode, which is a scouting episode for any that haven't watched it yet, on potential Argentinian players, and we're going to be recording further episodes over the weekend. We'll be back Monday. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but it will be relevant to the takeover, the managerial situation, players we've been linked with. Christ, it's the world of Rangers, anything can happen. But just remember, every night's a Rangers Journal night. See you later.